moss skull display. All right, you've seen him in the Halloween videos, haven't you? Welcome to the channel. Isn't he cute? Then I have some Waverly antiquing wax, brush, a sponge, and check this out, y'all. I'm going to take the centerpiece and that little plastic piece and a block of wood to make a base for this. Yep. It's just a scrap of wood that I had sanded down to use for whatever projects I needed. Now I'm going to put this in the middle but slightly backwards, and I'm going to use some hot glue, and then I'm going to use some staples to hold this in place because this needs to hold the weight of what we're going to be putting on the top. Yes. Now I can put some glue here around the ring and slide that right back on, and it is the perfect fit because it was manufactured to hold the ribbon that way. All right, in the bottom of my skull, I am going to be making a hole. So I've got my little, this is like my little burning tool, and I'm going to use this, or it's a soldering iron, and I'm going to use this to make a hole and then start burning in a circle that will fit the diameter of that piece of twisted. It's actually vine, y'all. It looks like a stick, but it is actually a thick piece of vine that my husband found in the woods at our farm in Mississippi. So I'm going to use that today. That's just another one of those things that he knows that I collect, and I just enjoy keeping that stuff because I know that I'll be using it in something. You know, I mean, honestly, I am that kind of person who I find joy in those things like that. It's true about me. If anybody knows me in person, you will know that this is the truth about me. I can sit in a pile of rocks all day long and look for fossils and agates and honeycombs, and I have a blast doing that. Okay, so now we have that hole the perfect size. I'm going to take, you can put the brown paint on the inside of the eyes and nose if you want. And I'm going to take antiquing wax, and I am going to go down in all the depressed areas, and in all of these little fissures in the head, I'm going to go down that with the wax. I'm pushing it down into the plastic. I don't have to necessarily do the other part of the aging with the spray because it already is aged. It already has that look, so thankfully that step is done for me. Now there is a mark where the manufacturer put it together that is straight across the back. That is not a normal marking on the human skull, so I'm not going to focus on getting any down in there. I don't want to draw attention to that, in other words. You know what I'm talking about. Every little piece that's got like a crack around it or a depressed area or elevation, I am going to go over it with this wax. Pretty much I'm just going to paint the entire thing with this wax. The beauty comes in wiping it back. So I've got my dry towel. You can see where I've put it on. I didn't wait like a long time. I just grabbed my paper towel after getting it in there, and look at the difference that the wax makes down in all of those areas. I've taken that skull from that grayish color to a more natural aged bone color. I'm going to go over it. And if you want to know how I know what a bone looks like, I am a nurse. I'm a trained nurse. That's what my profession was before I became a YouTuber. So that's what it was. And I know a little bit about bones and human anatomy. All right. With that said, let's go around and keep doing this. He was biting my towel. Did you see that? Bit the towel. He was trying to get it. I'm going to go around all of it. I don't want any of that gray to show, and I want this to be a very beautiful textured look. So I'm going to also go inside the mouth and on the inside of the jaw, any place that you can see them, because it'll be on a stand and you can definitely see the bottom of the jaw from the back side of the stand. All right, and it's just a matter of applying it, wiping it off, patting it off, rubbing it in. You're just going to layer it and then let it dry. So as much as you need, as much as you desire for your look. Look at that. Oh, it's beautiful. Y'all, please don't be scared of the human anatomy. This is what we look like on the inside. Pretty much. It's not exact, but you know, pretty much. Nothing to be scared of. God made us perfectly, perfectly. You don't have to be afraid. Okay, I'm not here to scare anybody. All right, so now I'm going to fill this little well up with some hot glue. This is going to help hold that beautiful, beautiful curvy piece of vine in place. So I chose to put the curly section downward and use the longer part upward. You also, after you put your hot glue in here in the bottom, grab your E6000. If you need foam or anything else to lock it in to keep it nice and tight while it's drying, do that, or it will dry crooked. While that is drying, I'm going to start with the moss on the face. I'm going to go into the eyes here with some of that moss. It's all mixed up. It's got a variety in there. And I'm going to go about halfway down the orbit, like halfway down, so that you can still see the black in there. And I'm going to shove this in here. Any place that it would look like naturally as, you know, pollen and spores and seeds fall on it, it would collect dirt. That's where things would grow. So that's why I'm trying to do it in a downward section. I hope that makes sense to you. Any little pockets. So like right here and the side, by the, I think, blink, that's the temporal bone. We're going to go in that with some glue and then tap that moss in there. I'm going to do it all in there. Y'all, I either hear thunder or a loud truck. I'm hoping that it's thunder. But it could be my... Oh, that's definitely UPS, yeah. Okay, so I'm pressing this down. All in here. Very nice. And then I'm just going to trim a little bit just to make it look a little bit, you know, neater. This type of moss doesn't hang. It's not Spanish moss, so I just want it to be nice and crisp. And then I am going to be using the top of the head as an area to decorate. And I am going to add a little bit of hot glue at a time. It's actually a lot of hot glue because I really want to hold it in there. You take the head and just push it straight down into that bowl if I wanted to, but you know, afterthoughts. That was an afterthought. I'm going to press this down in there. You see my fingers are not protected, but I have so much. I'm picking up so much that I can't feel the glue underneath. So in a way, the moss is protecting me. I'm just going to press it down, and then I want to try to make sure that the shape is somewhat circular and that it kind of makes sense in the direction that the head is going to be standing on the stand. And then this is what it will look like. I'm going to give it a little goatee, y'all. There's a little dip right here, so we're going to add a little bit of moss in this area too. We're going to keep going with that whole idea. Look at that. Look at it. Look at it. Yes. I like that. I think that is nice. That is nice. And then I'm going to go down in here again where the jaws meet because there's a little depressed area. Now I'm going to start working on the bottom. Now some of this is going to be out of focus, but you can definitely still see what I'm doing here. I will fix that. My camera likes to focus on whatever's closest to me, so that's why that happens. Now I'm going to add hot glue and I'm going to start placing this down. This is that same mixed up moss, and as it runs low, I'll grab some more moss and mix it together so that I have a lot of different color. And then I'll start placing it down. There's going to be a lot of glue webbing here, a lot of it, in both of these projects actually, so be prepared for a mess, but it was a lot of fun. Okay, pressing, 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 pressing. And I'm going to do this sort of where the back left and all the way through to the right front are going to be covered sort of at a diamond shape, and then I will have two corners. The other two corners will be covered in rock. Okay, you can see what I'm doing here, and you can certainly cover the entire base with this if you would like. Whatever floats your boat, right? Make it your own. I'm simply here to bring you some inspiration and show you what you could do, and then you make it your own. Now, let's see if we cut correctly. Yes, it's going to fit. I love that. It is going to slide down and fit nicely. And then I can get it all glued into place. I love that. So pretty. Okay, I'm going to turn it upside down, and then I will add some hot glue here. Feel free to get your E6000 at this point and put that in here. You want to make sure you get your measurements right. Okay, and there's a space right here behind the top jaw. I'm going to put some glue there so that it will stay in place. Keep it from rocking backwards because I want it to be stable while it dries. Now, let's start working on the beautiful stand, our vine stand that is holding this in place. We're going to go in little sections here and there on this vine piece. Just going to press it in, tap it off a little bit. And there's quite a bit of dust, and this could be an allergy trigger for some people, so you might want to use a mask and eye protection when you do this. I'm going to add here and there some of these stones that came from Dollar Tree. Mine are in black. I could not find the bag that was multicolored that had the, brown and beige and the different colors. I couldn't find any in my store, but the flat black ones I thought were perfect. So I'm just going to use those and put those in place. Just fitting them in like puzzle pieces. On the base, you can see here the opposite corners. This is just my preference. You don't have to do it this way. You could also put this on a live wood round if you would like, whatever the look is that you're going for. And then I just glued a rock to my finger, y'all. Don't worry about the little glue mess. You can get that off with your heating tool. Now I want to add this beautiful piece of fern. I'm gonna curve the end here because I want something to give it like a foot or a stand to help it stay balanced. And I'm just gonna tuck it under the edge of one of those rocks. And it fit. It didn't pop off, and I didn't have to replace it. I'm gonna add hot glue, and then I'll use a little more of the rocks to kind of stack upward to give it a little bit of support. And it looks very intentional, and it looks like it is meant to be there. So I've got some donkey tail moss down there. I've got, well, not moss, succulents. I've got these beautiful purple succulents, and then the one purple flower. These all were thrifted, but you can definitely get these something similar at Dollar Tree. I didn't like the blue in this purple succulent, so I went ahead and grabbed my foliage green and just went over the top of the blue to make it look a little bit more like what we have going on here. I've got a couple of extra pieces of the fern. I'm saying that's a fern, but I know that's not what that is. It's probably a piece like a fir branch or something. But I'm just taking those pieces off, and I'm going to use it like I'll add a little bit of glue, and I want 3 pieces together. So now I've got my 3 pieces. Again, using my stones to help prop it up. I'll put the donkey tail down here, and then another little piece of succulent right beside it. The textures are going to be different sizes, different textures. I like that the ends of these are kind of a faded looking color. I think that looks really nice with all of what's going on in this project. Then I'm going to just glue the flower down in the top. The moss gives it something else to cling to. It gives it something to hold it in place. If you're wondering why I even put the moss on there, because you can still see the moss. It is still part of it. And yeah. So I cut a little piece off of the smaller purple flowers, and I put a section on the bottom. You will see that soon. I'll show it to you. And then I'll just start adding this on, just like a flower arrangement. Another little piece of donkey tail go up there. And now we got to put some butterflies on. I have a huge pack of butterflies that I got from Dollar Tree close to the gardening section. And I love the orange, but they have a variety of colors. So the orange and brown is what I chose. You're going to make sure that you have 2 of each of the same pattern. And I'm going to do 4 butterflies, and they're going to use 2 of the little butterfly cutouts a piece. I'll take my glue stick, and I am going to glue them back to back so that you have 2 fronts, and when you glue it down, you don't see any white. It just looks like one butterfly. How about that little trick? It's probably been done before, but I love doing it. I've never seen anybody do it, but it's probably been done before. Okay, so I'm going to go around this, and I'm going to go around each one of those until I have 4 beautiful butterflies. And no, they are not an exact match, but there's a way to fix that. So don't worry about that. I'm going to show you what to do. If those types of things get on your nerves, don't worry. There is a way to disguise the white. I suppose you could cut it. I don't feel the need to do that type of a fussy cut. I mean, you've really got to get in there. And I'm pushing it wearing my glasses as it is. I am really not going to do that. Whatever's easier for you, though. Okay, so I'll press them together. And then I am going to take my cherry furniture repair marker. Use whatever color you want. And I'm going to go around the edges. I'm just going to turn it right along here and just pull it right along the edges. All the way around that butterfly. That is going to cover up the white. And I think that it really gives it a crisper look. It really gives it a nicer look. Everything is kind of blended together, and it looks more realistic. I mean, obviously it's a paper butterfly, but And if you don't like the look of that, you don't have to use the paper butterfly. You can use a sticker. You can use a 3D sticker if you want to. You can use a faux butterfly, the ones they make out of feathers and lace and mesh and whatever. But for me, I like these because they have a very beautiful coloring and look. See the difference? So we want all of them to look the exact same way, and they really do look pretty when we get them put in place, I think. Around and around and around we go. Who's excited that we are in September right now? We are in September, folks. Yes. Okay, now look how pretty. Now all you gotta do is pinch it toward the middle, and then when you bend it, it is going to be beautifully a butterfly. Don't you love it? All right, I'm gonna take that little folded butterfly, and I'm going to find a place that I want him to rest. I'm going to put a piece on this little, I don't know what this is called. This is like a lily pod. I added that. That's not something that y'all saw me put in there, and a couple of little pieces of like a multicolored scraps of eucalyptus. That is in there as well. You can just add to your little heart's desires, pretty much scraps. So, you know, you just put in there whatever you like. I like for my things to kind of coordinate though, so they look like they're at least in the same season. I'll put one up here in this beautiful little feathery piece and just press it in the middle. I don't want to cover it in glue. And of course, one of them has to be lighting on top of this succulent. Absolutely has to be right on top of the succulent. I'm just going to hold it in place. And then I'll fold the other one and put it on top of that little donkey tail. Now we have 4 beautiful butterflies. And here's a look of what I came up with. I added some little weeds back there to the back left. Everything just stays together. It just goes together. It looks like it belongs together. And I am obsessed. This is so beautiful to me. But if you don't like skulls, think of all the other things you could use. You could use a raven here. You could use an owl if you wanted to use an owl. Whatever you have. The first project today will be our spooky romantic wall decor. Alright, I am going to use some of my 2X Ultra Matte paint in black, any type of a metal finish paint, and a chip brush. This beautiful paper from Dollar Tree, gorgeous wrapping paper. I'm going to use something thick as a backing. I just have a piece of very, very thick black paper. And then this frame that we used last year to make a Halloween DIY. We're going to use it again. All right, so I laid this down. What you see on the inside is the inner circle is the size of the inside of that frame. I wanted to give it at least an inch above that so that I could put this over the back and give it sort of a shadowy look underneath. So you can see my struggle here. These are very sharp scissors, but this is how thick this paper is. Maybe a very thick cardstock. So just continue around. And this is the oval that I have when I'm done. It doesn't need to be perfect because it's going to be on the back. I'm going to lay it down on top of my paper. And you know, Dollar Tree paper is very thin, so just be careful. My usual technique of dragging the scissors will not work on this. And then I am going to place this paper over, just making sure that I have my pattern somewhat in the middle. If that doesn't matter to you, then you can just totally not even worry about that part. Okay, so now is the time of year to get your glue sticks on sale. Go to Walmart. They probably even have some on clearance because most of the kids have started back to school, here in the South anyway. I like the purple because it shows me exactly where I'm putting down my glue, and that is important because I want to be sure that I can see where I've been and make sure every area is going to be covered. I want a good grip from the glue onto this very thin paper. Nothing should be coming apart. Do it all the way to the edges. Okay, so then I am going to flip this over on top of the paper. This is why you want a little extra on your edge so you can get it exactly where you want it. Because like I said, fragile paper, you don't want to do anything that's going to stress or tear it. Okay, so I've pressed it down, and now I'm going to take my little squeegee, and this is a Mod Podge squeegee, and it's kind of a flexible, rubbery type material. It works really great for this on fragile pieces of paper because it won't tear anything. Well, so far, it hasn't torn anything. Okay, so I'm just going to make sure that I burnish it down all the way to the edges, making sure that if there are any little lumps of glue that I've worked those all out to the outside. That way we don't have wrinkles and bubbles. I will trim off a large amount of this to make it a little more manageable. And I like the edge when I use a sanding block. So this is how I'm going to get that nice clean edge. Just using a sanding block. Y'all have seen this done before, and I do it all the time. But if you want to just use your scissors and fussy cut all the way around, you can do that too. Because really, once you get this backing on, you're not going to see your edges. This is just a personal preference for me. I am just going to continue around, make it nice and smooth all the way around. And it kind of gives it, you know, it adds to the aged look of it when you kind of fray it off like that. Okay, so here is this painted in the beautiful matte black. Gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. We're going to make it even more gorgeous. There's so much detail in here that you can't see, right? Well, we're going to fix that up. So there are some screws in the back of this, assuming that this was probably maybe a picture frame or a mirror at one point. I'm not exactly sure, but I know that this frame itself is like a resin, very flimsy, very lightweight, which makes it convenient when you go to the thrift store and you're buying by the pound. This didn't weigh very much at all. Okay, I took the screws out because I need something to rest my backing on, and I can make a wider surface to put glue down if I use these little building blocks. So they happen to be the perfect width to go down in that little channel and rest over the areas where the screws were. So I'll have a nice flat surface so that we can apply glue. Now, just in case, go ahead and paint those black. If your frame is black, if it's white, then paint it white. That way, when you look at it from all directions, you don't see the wood block under there. You don't want to see the mechanics of it, right? So you're going to add glue to each of those sections and then pop your frame back on. And this is how it's going to look so far. I want to be sure I give good before pictures so that you can really tell the difference when we spruce it up. So I'm going to use this rich espresso on the frame, and I'm going to use this tarnished silver, it's like an alcohol spray. I think you use it mainly for crafting, like paper crafts, but it gives such a nice patina and aged look that I like to use it on my older projects. I also, or the things that I want to appear antique, I also use this when I'm doing bones to make the bones look, you know, aged in a proper way. Okay. So when I get it on there, I'm just going to dry it with my little tool here. Get it all dry. I don't want anything smearing. So here's that rich espresso I was talking about. I have bronze colored paints, but I don't have anything that looks it doesn't look like the depth that I want in a bronze. And I think that this over the black is going to be like the perfect solution for that. And you can just tell me what you think. I think it definitely looks bronze, like an aged bronze. If you use that chippy brush and you just start going side to side, and sweeps all the way across. I'm not trying to get down in the cracks in this situation. This The black is going to be down in all the spaces, and this more of a metallic color is going to sit on the high points. So it makes it look like it is sort of a tarnished look. Look how beautiful that metallic paint just brings out all the detail and the beading, the little filigree on the side. The shape of it is just highlighted, in my opinion, with this. It's so pretty. I had originally pulled out like a tarnished silver paint to do this, but since I'm changing my room into something that is more of a dark and moody theme, I thought I could use this in my room. So I wanted to make sure that it fit into kind of the aesthetic that I'm going for, which, by the way, is not very textbook dark and moody. It's definitely not dark academia because I don't have books everywhere, but you know, I'll be sharing some of that stuff with you guys as I go along. Now, see, now the paper is too stark white, and we want this to look a little more luxurious, more like a damask. So I am going to just kind of brush this all over, and I've barely got any paint in the brush, just barely. Put it in the centers of the little floral pieces, along all of the details. I want to go around the outside where there's like a lip that's like almost an inch between the front of the frame and the backing that I'm working on right now. And it gives it a shadow around the edge, which to me is so beautiful. I love it. It looks old and vintage. I love it. So now I've just got a bath sponge that I've torn into pieces. I like to use it when I'm doing different techniques with paints. And I really like this. You just, when you dip in, be sure you offload some and then just kind of twist that in your hand back and forth to change the pattern if it's something that is very obvious. Like if I was putting a very dark color, there's no way I would want to pounce it in the same pattern, because then you would see that there was a pattern, and that's not how aging works, right? So now I'm going to go back over it, and if you get too much of a color on there for what you wanted, you know, maybe you make a boo-boo and it's not exactly what you're looking for, go back over it with some gray. Easy. All right, now we got some skeleton arms from Dollar Tree. I'm playing around to see, because I know I want these hands to be together in some way, and they will clasp. You know, you can put them together like this. It's pretty nice there. I know that I want to do this on that frame somehow, so I'm just thinking about it. Okay, I'm going to take this satin paint here. This is heirloom white. I absolutely love this color. And I'm going to spray paint those bones. They're going to dry thoroughly. That's only one coat the front, one coat the back. Then I'm going to take this spray and I'm going to start spritzing this on here. This is going to give, again, that aged look that I like, and it's going to give it a more of a realistic look. Now, I could speed right through all of this because some people don't want to be bothered watching the process. They just want to see how it ends. But for those of you who watch my channel who do these things on your own, because maybe you can't find the type of decor that you really enjoy, so you want to do your own, then you need to see exactly how to do it, right? And I don't want to rush you through it and feel like you're overwhelmed and you can't do it, because you absolutely can do this, okay? So there'll be very little increase in speed here. I want you to be able to see what we're doing. So I'm going to spray that on. I'm going to pat it off. Do not rub, because it will make the entire bone gray, and that's not the idea. You want to let it dry in between layers. Yes, this process does take a little time, but you can put it in front of a fan, or if you don't have a lot of humidity, put it in the direct sun outside and help these things to dry. So once I have enough of the spotting on there to my taste, I'm going to start building my layers of antiquing wax. The areas that would normally catch grunginess and dust and dirt are going to be where all those small bones are. So I'm going to go in there and just darken those areas. I know that I want those low spots to hold some color. So I'm just going to tap this on. If you prefer using the chalk paint for your projects, you can do that too, but beware that when you start fooling around with putting any moisture on chalk paint, it will start to flake off or lift. So just, keep that in mind. That's why I prefer spray paint for this. Okay, So now it's just, again, I'm going in all the spaces, all of the little dark spaces. I'm making them even darker, and I'm just going to build up slowly. You can see already how it's beginning to look a little more aged. I'll do some wiping with my sponge on top of here. And if you don't have the antiquing wax, remember there is a recipe. I wouldn't even say it's a recipe. I just tell you how you can use coffee to stain things while you're crafting coffee or tea. So, I mean, you can definitely do it that way if you prefer. But I've had this bottle of antiquing wax forever, and I'm still using it all the time, and there's a lot left in there. So, you let these layers dry in between, otherwise you're just smearing around the same paint. And that's just kind of a waste of your time and your product. So just continue along. I'm going back over where the joints are and where those little bones are, and in between the fingers, because I want to show some shadow. I don't want everything to be comical in this. This is not like a funny Halloween. This is more of a living a spooky life situation here. Or if you do prefer the dark and moody, something like this would be perfect. And in fact, all the little projects that I do in this video today are going to be appropriate all year long, but you can definitely use these at Halloween if you like. So now I've gotten my sponge, and I'm going to start just stippling that on. I'm just pretty much just popping it on here and there, twisting the brush, or the sponge rather, with that antiquing wax, and then pouncing it up and down. I don't want to rub off anything that I've already put on there. I'm going around the edges of the bone, and I'm also going to go making sure I go in between the fingers. Now the back side of the hand and bone you don't necessarily have to do because you won't see that, but definitely the sides. This is not a difficult process, right? It may take a little bit longer to achieve, but you can always work on different projects in between while your items are drying. That's what I always try to do. And then when I get ready to edit, I just splice everything together in a way that would make sense to somebody who's watching it. So if you do want to show this entire bone, or you're not exactly sure how you're going to lay it down, go ahead and extend that over just a little bit. Too much glue, too much wax on the fingers will make it where you can't glue it down to your surface, and I'm going to need to secure it in some way, but you can use mounting tape for that. So, there's a way to get around everything. But look at the bones now compared to how they were when we first started. This is definitely a big difference. Now, once they're completely dry, I'm going to take them over to my frame. Now, if these bones were more narrow, I could tuck them right inside the frame in that little gap that I was talking about. I could do them like this and put them together, or I can cross them over one another, and that's what I decided to do. And I'm using mounting tape. So I'm going to use a little bit of that mounting tape right behind where the bone begins to get narrow. And I'm going to press it down onto that beaded area. And then I'll go to the other side. And what makes it convenient is the shape of the frame has little pieces on it that are symmetrical on both sides. So I can count down those and know exactly where to put the other bone so that they're even. This mounting tape is really nice. You can definitely get it something similar to it. Alien tape, I believe somebody told me is what it's called. And you can get it at Walmart. So I'm just going to go in with my glue and put it together. I don't want the glue to necessarily be showing, so if you do get any glue on the outside, try to get it off there really quickly so you don't tear your paper. And I'm just going to flood a little bit of glue between the joints of the fingers so that it catches the other hand and it can dry. But you can certainly use your mounting tape here if you want to as well. Now I want to put a very beautiful romantic arrangement on the inside. So I have, when I was thrifting recently, I found two beautiful roses, this big purple rose, and then there is a rose bud as well. I am going to just poke these right into the framework of those clasp hands. I'm not going to be too concerned about, putting foam or anything in there. We're just going to glue it in. I don't want this to be a big, busy arrangement. I want this to be something that is pretty simple, but still elegant, beautiful. These dahlias are from Dollar Tree. Gonna cut these off. And then all I'm doing right now, I'm not using glue. I'm just pushing these around on the frame to see how I want to arrange it. I've got some of those black leaves out of there. I'm gonna use those too. Later on, I do add some purple leaves. You'll see that in the end screen. And you'll use the same process with gluing it down, you know. So this is why we don't glue them first. I'm going to move things around a little bit and decide how I like them, and then I can add my glue. I think it looks much better like that. So maybe the lady of the house is a bride. Maybe she's in love. Maybe she loves gardening. Who knows? But she's represented right here. And that beautiful, beautiful Dollar Tree paper is what inspired this entire look. Yes, just a roll of paper. But I knew it had to be prettied up and used in a project for you all who love your everyday spooky decor. Now again, I'm going between those fingers and I'm just kind of flooding a little bit of glue on all the flower stems that are down in there. And then I just individually glue down the black ones there, the black leaves. I've got some gorgeous, this is like a velour or velvet ribbon that came from Hobby Lobby, and I got it for 50% off, I think. It's beautiful ribbon, and I knew that I wanted to use this. It's in the Christmas section, but I knew I had to have it for spooky decor. So I'm just going to do a very simple bow, and I'm going to cut this off. If you don't want a bow for your little bouquet, you do not have to have a bow. But I really wanted to add this fabric. It just gives another little bit of texture and interest to the project, and it's all about, you know, making it your own. And so I did add in this little ribbon. You could also put something in the middle of the ribbon. If you wanted to put a spider or rhinestone of some sort in the middle, that would be pretty too. I think I am very happy with this, and I think it is the look that I was hoping for. Everything looks good together. You could always brush a little bronze over your leaves if you want to, but I don't have to have everything matchy-matchy. You can come watch my videos on Mondays and Thursdays at 6 p.m. It is free to subscribe. We'd love to have you as part of the family and talk to you in the comments. The next project is a creeping vine candelabra. I found this at the Goodwill's bins. I cannot believe that this was going to be just passed over by everybody. When I saw it, I thought, ooh, yes, that's going in my bedroom. I'm going to clean it up and give it a makeover. So I've got some wipes, and I'm going to decide whether I want to use this rich espresso again, or if I want to attempt to change it up a little and use a little bit of Martha Stewart's paint in a bronze color. The bronze to me is just pulling a little too copper. I don't mind copper, but I want all these pieces to be something that can be used together and all look nice together. So I am going to kind of do it my way. Definitely do it your way. And if you're going for more silvers, instead of using the bronze or the espresso that you see me using, just switch it up for the paint that you choose. All right, so I'm going to just use the top of this to decide which paint I like best. And you remember what I said about being a messy crafter? Well, yes, I'm finger painting in it. I think I like the darker one. I just like it. It's richer looking, and I don't want this to be brassy at all. So this color is going to be perfect for me. I'm grabbing a chippy brush here. You can use the same one you used on the other one. I didn't even have to paint this. It was already gorgeous after it was wiped off. So I'm just going to just touch this up. I'm going to add this all over. Again, I like to start off lightly, and then I just kind of look at it and decide whether or not I want to add on. It's just, for me, easier to add to it than take it off. Either way, you know, if you make a mistake, you can definitely fix it. So I am trying to make sure that when I dip in that paint, I don't leave any like puddles on the brush. I don't want any heavy amount on there. So that's why I tap it all off. I try to tap it off so that it leaves the same amount in the brush all the way across. And then I use a couple of different ways that I move the brush. You saw me do big brush strokes, kind of slow, and then as I'm adding on more, I'll move the brush side to side quickly, and that gives it a little bit better of a coverage, but also keeping it muted, which is what I like. I hope that made sense to you when I said it that way. I hope that made sense. But the finish is just beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. I can't bring myself to do the brasses and the golds just yet in my crafting journey, but most definitely the bronzy colors and the coppers, that's where my heart is. I love warm earthy tones, and this is just, oh, this is beautiful. This is so beautiful. And of course, it's going to need an equally as beautiful candle to go on top, right? We don't want to let this frame down by putting something on there that does not serve it well. So this is a 2-pack of candles that are battery operated, AA's. Get your batteries wherever you want. These came from Target Dollar Spot. I assume they had a $5 sticker on them, and I got them at either Goodwill or Dirt Cheap, I can't remember. Now I'm going to take that spray, that same alcohol spray, and I'm spraying it on this waxy finished candle, and it sticks on there just fine. It really does. And as far as the spray, where I got it from, I found it in some scrapbook and stuff at Goodwill, so I don't even know where it comes from. So this is what it will look like. The next project is going to be an aged bronze owl. If you guys have been with me a while, you know we used this owl in a red and black arrangement last year. I'm going to use him again. Now, he was originally spray painted, but I'm going to go over him now with some black chalk paint, and I'm going to matte it down some more. I'm going to give it more depth by making it darker, because I didn't spray it all the way through. This is originally was a white owl, and I do not know where it came from, but just substitute whatever you have that you want to use. You can use an owl, a bat, a crow, a raven, anything that says dark cottagecore to you. If that's what you're going for, then go ahead and use that. And maybe a little more on the goth side. I'm going to make sure that he's thoroughly dried all over, and then I'm going to address his eyes. Put on my spectacles to address my eyes. Y'all remember last year when I did him, I didn't do anything to his eyes. I left him completely black. Well, so many people made suggestions on how to make these eyes just pop and look gorgeous, and I decided that today I would give him some beautiful glowing eyes. So here he is, and I'm putting on that rich espresso right into his eyes with a little brush, and I'm just kind of chasing that shape out with that small brush. See, I'm taking my time. I'm not speeding this up. So you can see, it takes me a while too. And then trying to maintain that shape inside this other eye. And then you can always clean it up if you make a mess. Just take your time. If you have a paint pen and that's easier for you to use on this type of detail work, just use those. And then I just use my finger if I get a little too much and just tap it off. Looks fine. You can always go back over it with a little black chalk paint once it is completely dry, or black permanent marker. Alright, we're going to give it a minute or two for those beautiful eyes to dry, and then I am going to start making him look beautifully aged. Now you can see, look at that. Look how much. I didn't get enough paint off there because I'm working on a tiny little surface and I didn't pat the paint out right. But you don't have to worry, because there's a way to fix it, and I will show you how to fix it shortly. Alright, again, adding on, brushing off, adding on, brushing off. And you can see that on his, I think it's on his chest maybe, there's a spot that is just too dark. I'm going to fix it with some black paint. See there on his chest, and then on his head. You can leave it like that. If you want to leave it that way, you can certainly leave it that way, but I want to tone it down just a bit because I'm trying to give it like the hint of it without just being crazy with it. So I'm trying to brush it out just a little bit, and if you can't brush it out enough, go ahead and grab a little bit of your black chalk paint, on a smaller brush, tap it off, and then just kind of use it to blend it in. Like you blend your makeup on your jawline, just blend it in. And then if you get done with the process and you think, I hate this, let it dry and paint completely over it. Not a problem. I just knew he had to be part of this family. I knew he needed a makeover, and he needed to be with this set of Dollar Tree paper items that we put together. Had to be. Absolutely had to be. He fits in perfectly with the set. All right. The next project is going to be a bronze pedestal candle. So here's the other candle, the shorter one of the two. This is a jar lid, which I painted with black chalk paint. Here is a candle sleeve or a hurricane, and then a thrifted glass candle holder. I also have a little bit of that paper from Dollar Tree. I'm going to first use some Goo Gone or alcohol or acetone, whatever you want to use, to get off the writing on the bottom, and then you're going to wash it with soap and water and thoroughly dry it. The back of this paper has lines on it and a grid on it, which makes it perfect for you to do these types of crafts. They're really going to help you out with that paper. So I'm just going to kind of measure by laying it down. I'll cut off an even amount to wrap all the way around the back of the candle. And then right along the edge of the paper, there is like a print line. I'm going to cut that off too. I did consider that when I was measuring the length to put it on the candle. So I'll just trim that all off. And then here's our piece of paper. Get your design the way you like it. I'm going to take my little hurricane here, roll it. If I have a little overlap, that's great. That's what I'm going for. You don't want a lot, so trim it down where it just goes over, maybe 1/8 or 1/4 of an inch over. I'll use my double stick tape that I happen to get from Dollar Tree. Press it down on the glass. This way we're not waiting on Mod Podge to dry. We're not worrying about wrinkles. This is the perfect way to do this, and then if you want to change it later, you can change it out easily. I'm carefully pressing that down into half of where the tape is, leaving the other half of the tape exposed to stick this page on. Now I had it a little bit crooked, so I had to adjust just a little, and that's okay. I had a little tear on the back side, but it didn't tear through, thank goodness. And I'm just going to press that down and trim off. If you have a little extra tape, hanging over, you can trim it off. Then you can grab the sanding block and get it right close to the edge, just like you would any other project. Just like it was if it was a piece of wood. Just be sure you hold on to it good so you don't drop and break it. I'm going to do this all over the top, and then I'm going to go along and do this on the bottom as well. I don't want anything hanging over because I want this to be rich and elegant looking. Look how pretty. Oh, this paper is beautiful. So here's our clean candle. I'm going to use this as the top, and this, like I said, is just a jar lid. We want this to appear to be one piece, so we are going to stick it together. All of my E6000 glue was clumped up and dried. If you have tips on how to keep that stuff from doing that, please tell me, because I have so many tubes I had to throw away because I can't use them anymore. So I grabbed this super glue from Dollar Tree, questioning whether or not it was actually going to hold these two together, but I gave it some time. This is a little multi-pack you can get at Dollar Tree, and would you look at that? It won't even wobble. Perfect. So I'm going to grab that chalk paint. This is just a rich black, and I'm going to tap it off, and I'll use this little pouncer to go all the way around my edge. I'm just rubbing this on. If you have makeup, the little makeup sponges, you could use those also. Use the flat edge. I'm just going around the edge of the white, the edge of the glass, so that it looks like one piece. And then you can pick your little hurricane shade up, and you can extend it a little bit down the sides just to continue that aged look that we're going for. Okay, so I got the top. Now I'm going to kind of smear it on the side a little bit. make it look old. It makes that print stand out with that rich black next to it. And we're going to do the bottom too. See how that just really finishes it off? I love that. I love that edged look like that. So we're going to let it dry just like that. And then the process that we used on the inside of the frame, we're going to use the same process here and make this beautiful and rich looking as if it has been in an old home on the walls forever. My niece does Sims games, and she did a build that recently had some black wallpaper in it that was gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. I don't want my room to be that dark. I want it to be a little more foresty looking, you know. But yeah, I sure appreciate the look of it. That's stunning. Right. Once you get the look you want, I'm just going to go ahead and spray this on now after I've done the paint. You can do it either way. You're not going to hurt yourself either way. And I'm just spraying it on top of a towel that's just a rag I use here in my studio. If you have any runny spots, just tap them off. If it runs on your page, that's totally fine. It's part of the aging process, right? So look how nice this looks together. It looks as though it was made as one piece. And I love that it now looks this black color, which really brought it together. And now we're going to add that espresso. Again, I'm starting off slow, so I'm going to start on the bottom in that rim right there on the edge and just flick that back and forth. I'm not looking for a solid painted line. It's just, again, brush strokes. And I guess there is sort of a pattern to it, but I'm not trying to get like an even amount. We want it to look like it aged this way. I'm going to go back and forth on the rounded parts just to keep that rounded look. It just makes sense that it would wear in that way when it is wiped and cleaned. Then I'm going to go around all the beautiful curves. Y'all, I ordered lamps, new lamps for my room, and they have the amber, like a teardrop in the inside of the, the standing part of the lamp that makes a night light. So you can turn the light on and off, and you can also use the amber night light. Oh, that's going to be perfect for fall when I am watching movies in here in my room by my Hotbilly stove. Can't wait. Okay, so I've built it up about this much, and what I do is turn it back and forth, and I add more on in the spaces where I feel like it needs more, and it shows me if I've left anything off. Go ahead and address that and cover that. So that's what I'm doing here until I get the coverage that I like, and then of course you are going to let it dry after you do that. I don't need necessarily, with the process that I'm using, to color the top of it. It just didn't feel right to me not to do it. So I went ahead and worked on that top too. And I'm trying to kind of keep it circular. Now, if the sleeve that you have doesn't fit perfectly over the top, mine fits like perfect. There's no extra lip, nothing. I am going to secure that down with some hot glue, and I do it in 4 different places. I let that dry thoroughly. I mean, you really, really need to let the glue dry. If you use the candle top that is bigger, a little bit bigger than your sleeve, you'll be better off, I think. But look at it with the candle on the inside, and we didn't have to do anything special to the actual candle insert because we have this beautiful frame. The first is going to be a mystery lady print. Of course, we will be needing some paint brushes. You know, we got to paint, and here are the paints we're going to be using. Chalk paint in rich black, and then a rich espresso. I have a frame that I thrifted that's got a lot of detail in it. It's raised, and I think this will be really pretty for what we're going to do. You can see it's got kind of a lip. Here's the print that I chose from Temu. Dark and mysterious, yet elegant and beautiful. This is a piece of cardboard that I saved from a calendar. So I want to make sure that my piece of cardboard is going to fit on the back of the frame because I want it to look like there's a lip. It's going to create more shadow, and that's the look that we want, right? Of course, dark romance. Now, I'm just trying to center this on the sides, and I will start adding just a little bit of kind of smeared hot glue. Like you want to put on your cool temp, and you want to just smear it out a little bit with the tip of the gun. And then you're going to press it down. And I'm going in the area where the white is because I don't want to cause any wrinkling or damage on the print part. So I'll do that on the bottom side first, flip it over. Then I'll go right to the back with a little bit. Now, of course, you could cut this off if you would like, but this works for me. I'm going to press it down into that glue. This is going to give it a clean edge and make it look more professional. Same thing here. We're just going to press it down. Make sure that you're not getting any bubbles, wrinkles, or any of that in there. Just keep going away from the middle and outward, and then finish with the last side. This is easy to do. It doesn't matter what your glue line looks like on the back because it's on the back. No one's going to see it, and we're going to be covering this up so it is nice and finished. It would be a beautiful Valentine's gift for the one you love with a little spooky heart like yours. Okay, so let's do something to this frame. I'm going to protect my table. I'll grab my black chalk paint and I'm going to go all over this frame. I'm making sure that I tap down into all of the little recessed areas and all of the areas above. I'm going to be sure that I get the outside edges of the frame, the joints where they connect, and then we're going to flip it over and we're going to get right on the inside. So everything will be black, every bit of it. See here? Because we're going to make this look like a recessed canvas, we want to make sure it is all black and it blends well. So this is a thick piece of felt. I got a big stack of these at the thrift store, but you can definitely buy these probably at any place you buy craft supplies. That's going to be the back of the frame. We're going to trim this down to make sure that it's going to fit underneath that black piece of felt. And I'm just kind of eyeballing it and trimming it down as, you know, as small as I need it to be. Now it's going to fit, so I'll just put it in place, and because it's on cardboard, we can bend it up a little bit while still holding it in place and gluing it down. You're not going to see the glue line here, so you know, do what you can, do what you must. All right, and now it is pretty much centered on there. And we need to create like a cameo type effect, and I'm going to do that by putting some black on here. Now this is just my way of disguising that white line, which you could certainly cut off, but I love the depth that this is going to give. So it's just a bit of a paint technique. I have no idea if anybody's asking me. I'm self-taught with painting. I don't know names of things. I don't know what you would call this exactly, but I call it pretty. So that's what we're going to go with. I'm making sure that I get on the outside of that cardboard too, all over that white line where the print stops. So once I get it on there, I'm going to start kind of tapping it back and forth so that it creates like a more of a feathered or blended type effect, which makes using the foam brush much easier, like a better option in my opinion than using any type of a brush, unless you had maybe a makeup brush, makeup sponge, maybe that would work. So I'm rounding the edges. You can see here I'm kind of rounding the edges. This gives it a little bit of a vignette, or like I said before, I don't know why I'm saying cameo, but you know what I mean. We're rounding it out on the corners. This, again, is going to give it more depth once it is placed into the frame around the edges. It's going to give it more shadowy, mystery, suspense, you know, that good old look that we're looking for in this video. So now I've got that part done. I'm going to be sure I let it dry. Then I'm going to grab some antiquing wax, just a tiny bit on that brush, and blend that black into the background of the photo. It's going to make, it's just another one of those things that gives you more depth. I don't really know how to explain that more to you, but you see how light and bright that background is? We want to bring that down just a little bit, almost to look like, you know, maybe she's in a haunted house, right? Maybe this is a haunted Victorian home. So we're going to give it that mystery by adding a little bit to it. It's still quite a bit light around her and around her face and her upper body. So I'm going to use in the same direction, back and forth, back and forth. I'm going to go over in front of her and behind her to give this a little more dimension and depth. And this is the result. And I love it. And it didn't take long to do. You just got to let your paint dry, right? Love it. So here's the frame in black that is completely dried, and it's already got black felt on the back of it. All right. So I'm going to take this espresso now, and I'm going to put it down on just my little piece of cardboard so that I can tap it off. Now, I did not have a chippy brush that was dry for this. Everything had been used and washed. So I took another brush and cut into it into rough edges, and I'm going to be using that instead. We use what we have, right? And look how this starts to build. It is so pretty. I always, always encourage you to go light the first time. I don't want blobs in there that I have to wait to dry to go back and correct. So tap as much as you can off, and then by pulling this brush across all of those raised areas, you can still see the black in between, and all of the upper pieces are highlighted. So the beautiful, whatever you call the decorative edges there, they're highlighted. And I think that is so gorgeous. Of course, if you don't like this technique or you don't like this color that I've chosen, consider maybe using like an aged silver or maybe a copper, whatever color that you like. This is my go-to metallic color. It just looks so good to me with the Gothic and, you know, romantic, dark academia look. Look at it, y'all. Is that not gorgeous? It's amazing what just a little bit of paint will do. And it is perfect, I think, for this beautiful print that I got. And this is not a sponsored video, but I think I paid like $2 for that print. It was very cheap. Okay, so I've got some of this velvet ribbon that came from Dollar Tree. And we're going to make a hanger for this before we put our print on, because we want the back, the back of the frame, or the felt that we're going to put down with the print on it, to cover up the bottom of this. So we're going to make a little loop. And this is probably a foot of ribbon, if I had to guess. And I'm going to put it down right over that original hanger that was there. Then I have this curtain, whatever this is. Y'all know what these are, right? You put your curtains on them. I get them at the thrift store all the time, different sizes, different colors. Some are metal, some are wood. But this is going to be perfect to use as a hanger for this beautiful piece. So I'm going to cover up that original piece there. Grab my handy dandy staple gun, and I'm going to staple on either side of the original hanger. It's going to hold it in place, and I'm going to take that picture, make sure you got it in the right direction, and I'm just going to give it a few staples to hold it in place. And I just kind of eyeballed what the center would be to make sure that my print is centered back into the frame. Didn't have to use glue here, just got it all stapled into place. And she ain't going nowhere, y'all. Not nowhere. I'm careful. I'm underneath where that other hanger is, so it will hold. And look at her. Oh, that's beautiful. So here's that ribbon I was talking about, and it was from Halloween. And I picked up a couple of spools of it. The drawback on this is there's only 3 feet of ribbon. That's the entire, what you're looking at is the entire roll. It's silliness, but let's put a bow on here. I want to give it a little bit more elegance, and she is wearing her beautiful clothing and her hair is up, so let's give her a little more glamour. I just got some black string or black cording over there. I'm just going to use that to tie around the middle, but you can use what you have. I don't want this to necessarily be a piece of jute. I don't want the brown showing. We're going to cover it up, so I'll show you what you do if you only have jute or you only have floral wire or whatever you have. You can still make this pretty. I'm going to cut those at a slant, but you can dovetail whatever you like, and then I'll cut those off. I'm going to come up here to the top, right where those 2 pieces are, where the ribbon overlaps that loop, and I'll just press that bow right down into it. Now protect your fingers if, you know, there's a chance that you might hurt yourself. And we're going to embellish the middle of that. I love this button. I find these things at the thrift store, and I've got a little bag, just a very little bag. I don't want to use the cameo here. I think that this one is going to be pretty, but I need to change it from the brassy or gold look to the colors that I've already used. So I'm just pushing it down into the top of that ribbon holder so that I can keep it still somewhat and flat while I apply that beautiful espresso. And then I'm just going to use a damp Q-tip to wipe the paint off of the stone in the middle. Now, I could definitely have left that stone black and that would have been beautiful. Isn't that pretty? However, this Tuscan red very closely matches that carpeting that's on the stairs that she's on. I thought, let's layer this paint on here and use this. Once it is painted up, look how pretty that is. That's a couple of coats of paint now. I'm going to use some gloss after it's completely dry, the gloss Mod Podge. I'm going to go over that stone completely and also over the metal part. It's actually plastic, but it's made to look like it's metal, right? You know how they do buttons. Now, if you have a pretty rhinestone or something, you could certainly use that there. But look how pretty that is. Such a beautiful color. I love the results of that. So it won't sit completely flat with the little button part in the back. And since it's plastic, I can easily just cut that off. You could also use your scissors if you've got some tough scissors. Then I'll add some hot glue and put it in its new home. Right in the middle. Y'all always protect your fingers, okay? Always protect your fingers. I've just gotten kind of used to where I put my hands. I don't have that many accidents as much. I love this. Let's go ahead at this point and kind of age this round also, or this loop. I thought at first I would leave it black because the bow is black, but it looks like a piece of the hardware, and since the rest of the hardware is done this way, I thought it appropriate to follow through and do it this way. And the results are so wonderful. I absolutely love how this turned out. It's very pretty. For Valentine's Day, for any day. You could even embellish it with rose or any type of flower. You could use a black flower, a black dahlia maybe would be pretty there. Whatever you would like to do. The next is going to be amber candlesticks. All right, I'm going to have E6000 here. Definitely need some super glue. These are 2 little half rounds that I have. Candlesticks that I thrifted. They are wood. We're going to use these on the top so that we have a place to put these beautiful glass cups. All right, so I'm going to use my oil rub bronze and some of this amber glass paint. My spray bottle's outside. We're going to put these together. So we're going to use a little bit of E6000. I'm just putting it in like 4 different spots on here. And I always do my E6000 first. It gives it a minute to set up like it should. And then it gives me time to quickly put on my hot glue so that it doesn't all dry immediately. I'm using the 2 glues because hot glue will hold it in place so that the super glue will take effect. Same thing here. Feel free to take a level and put on the bottom when you flip it over so that you can make sure that this is centered and it's not slanted, because if you have something that's slanted, then your cups will be slanted and it will be very obvious. Okay, now I'm going to take these outside and spray paint them, let them dry, and then use the amber paint on the cups. What a beautiful look that gives. Now these look a little dark, but stay with me now, because once you put the lights in there, oh my goodness. Okay, so now we're going to grab that E6000. Glass will not stick as tightly or as securely if you just use hot glue. So you want to put some E6000 on there and your hot glue, just like we did when we put these little half rounds on the top of the candlestick. Okay, and I'm also going to be putting a little extra glue in the middle of it just to make sure it stays. So we're going to set that down. Then I'm going to flood the bottom all the way up to that first lip with the hot glue. I do not want this falling off at all. You could use a lighter coat of the amber if you would like to, but I was having some issues with my bottles, and instead of giving up on this project that I have thought about for a long time, I decided to roll with it. We're going to make it work, right? All right, so now, same thing. We're going to use a little hot glue, and we're going to use our E6000 or whatever super glue that you have that you want to use that works with glass. And then I'm going to flood the bottom of it with a big glue tool. To make a nice solid surface, we're going to let those cool. This is how they will look. I'm not going to add any extra pretty to it. This is so easy, very beginner friendly. Look how dark and mysterious this looks with my little fairy lights in there. But you could also use tea lights if you want to, whichever way you choose. Thank you for supporting me to all of my members, my magic makers, my buddies. You are the ones who make it possible to give free content to everyone else. The next is going to be our butterfly and roses. All right, I'm going to use scrap foam here. I'm not sure what this wood piece is, but I got it from the thrift store. I've got a dowel rod. It's about 18 inches long, I think. 2 butterflies from Dollar Tree, and they are exactly the same print, the same size, or the same cutout, whatever. You see? Perfect. Then I'm going to use a little sponge brush. I'm going to grab that espresso again, the Tuscan red, and that rich black chalk paint. Of course, we're going to start by taking off our tags, anything that we hang these pieces with, whatever they originally came with. I've got these 2 little scraps of wood. Like I said, I pick up stuff all the time. Don't even know what these are, but you could use a little piece of paper on the back if you wanted to, just to fill in the holes where the hangers were, because we don't need to use those. I'll take some spackling, and I'm going to go right in the inside of the holes that are on the other side, and these will be our outside pieces. So this is what you will see, not the round part. And then I'm going to use just a little scraper here to get anything else that's not flat down on that surface like it should be. Just pick it out of there, make it nice and neat and crisp. Once it is dry, we can begin to paint. Now, this part I'm kind of freehanding because it doesn't have any lines to show where the body of this butterfly is. So I'm using my own knowledge of the shape of a butterfly, and I'm going to trace this out with the black, or fill it in with the black, I should say. You can use whatever type of brush you need, whatever works best for you. I just want to make sure that I get enough on there that this is rich and dark, and we know that this is the center of the butterfly. It will matter as I begin to layer the paint on there, and we will do some layering, but please don't be afraid of any of that. If I taught myself to do it, you can teach yourself to do it, right? And at least I'm here to help you, to show you how to do it, okay? So if you need to pull this video up when you get ready to do it, then you just pull this video up and we'll do it together. See, it's not perfect. That's okay. I'm not going for perfect. And then we're going to do the other one. And we're going to let those dry, or use your drying tool or a fan or whatever you have. Then I'm going to grab that Tuscan red and dip into that and then tap it off here. Now, the reason I'm not using a brush is because the insides of these cutouts are dark. They're like a wood color, like a darker color on the inside of the cutouts. And that's probably has something to do with the laser that cut it out. But I like the depth that that gives, and I don't want to take that away by globbing the paint on in each of those little sections of the cutout here. I don't want to do that. So to preserve that, I can use just a little bit of paint and just pounce that on the top, and that way there's no dripping. Does that make sense? Okay. Also, as I'm doing this, I'm going to make sure that I leave a section next to the body of the butterfly that is probably 1/8 or 1/4 of an inch, you can see here, that I want to leave the wood color. And you'll see why later. All right, I'm going to spin it around and we'll start the other side. This is very easy to do. And again, if you don't have a sponge brush like this, grab a makeup sponge and just be sure that you tap out as much as you can before you put more on here. You want to keep going until it is done, and then you want to go on to your other butterfly, and of course you want to do the same thing. Just adding and tapping off, just like this. All right. Love it. This is easy. It goes by pretty quickly. And then after that's dried, we're going to flip them over to the back side and take the dowel, take them outside and spray paint them black. And then I'm going to grab my paint. And always be sure you clean your surfaces when you get them from the thrift store or garage sale or out of your closet. Take all the dust and grit off first, you know, for many, many reasons. And then sand if you need to sand any areas, and then go over it with your paint. Then you get a smooth, nice, pretty finish. So I'm going to go over this entire thing. I'll go on the inside of that lip. You can see what I'm doing. And I'm not using a lot of paint to do this because it's already black. I just want to make sure that I can see the shine or the wetness of that paint on there so that I know all surfaces are covered and it is completely one black color. Set that aside and let it dry. Then we're going to cut into that foam. Now the size of that hole in the middle is about the size of a nickel. So I'm just going to kind of think about what that size might be and just trim down a piece of this foam to go in the middle. It's like a spongy, compact type foam, you know, that you get in packaging. I save that stuff. I sure do. No, I'm not a hoarder. But you might think that if you saw my studio. You might think it. So I'm going to press it down in there. And at first I thought, okay, well, this will work. So then I started adding my black paint to it, and it occurred to me, this is not going to hold the weight of what I'm going to be doing here. So let's add one more layer. And luckily, this candle lid fit right down in that lip, which always makes me very happy when something works like that because it makes it the best template to put something in there. I've got a marker, and I'm going to just trace that out. And once I have that circle the right size, I'll go back over that with my scissors and just trim that completely out. Easy to do, and I still have more foam to use for later because I worked in the corner and I didn't waste anything. I'll just go around the outside of it. This can be compressed, so I could squeeze it down if it's too big, but I try to get as close as I can to it. So a little bit of the hot glue. Cool is best when you're using hot glue on foam. And then I'm going to paint this black. Now that's going to give me extra depth for me to put that dowel rod into. Make sure that it's dry, but keep your dryer very far away from it because it will shrink if you don't. I shrunk mine down, by the way, but I'll fix it. All right, so the back is dry, the front is dry. Now we're going to start adding a little bit of aging to this butterfly. Let's put the mystery back into it. Let's put the haunted back into the haunted house, or the mystery back into your Victorian aged home. Okay? If you love the Gothic or the Victorian or the dark academia, I think any of these projects that we're doing today would really fit in nicely. See the difference that the aging makes? And that is just that black, that rich express, the rich black, I mean. But you see the difference of the two. So if you don't like the aged look, you can leave it bright like that. All right. So let's age this bottom, this pedestal, or whatever we want to call this thing. Again, start light. That's what I'm doing here. We're starting light. And I'm adding that paint on a little bit at a time. Not putting a ton on there. This just gives to me a bronzy look. I've done this on several projects. If you're new to my channel and you haven't seen my Halloween, then I really suggest that you go over and check out some of my Halloween videos, because I do a lot of the dark romance and the dark academia, the dark look that I think you might like as well. And they'll fit nicely together with these pieces we're making today. So if you did those, these will work well with them, I think. I'm going to go all around my edges and all around the different layers, because you see there are levels on here. Very pretty. And then we'll do the same technique to the dowel rod that we took outside and spray painted. So, you know, you can do the technique on spray paint if you would like. And they match great. This is going to look like one piece. So the last step on our butterfly, once the other aging part is done, is to add a little bit of bronzing. Well, it's not the last step. I actually do go back in and do something to the center of the butterfly, like I said. But we're going to do the bronzing first. And I'm just putting this all over very lightly on both of the butterflies. But you can go lighter or darker. But you know, butterflies have that little bit of a shimmer, a metallic shimmer to the wings. It's just that magical, beautiful look, you know. I'm going to very lightly go over the black part of the body. Then I'm going to grab that red again. And this time, I'm going to use a brush to go right next to the body and then make one line, and we're going to blend that out into the wing. We're just going to drag the remainder of that out into the wing. This gives like a highlight to the middle of that butterfly. It just gives it a pretty look, in my opinion. Then when it's dry, if you want to go back in and add a little bit more, you can, just to keep it looking, you know, consistent throughout. Oh, it's so pretty. All right, so now we're going to sandwich this dowel rod right in between. And we're going to do that with some hot glue. So I'm just going to put some hot glue in there. I don't want this to be so much that it floods out into the openings there or the cutouts. I don't want that to happen. But I'm trying to make it somewhat centered, because this is going to be, again, sandwiched in between. We're going to add some more glue here. And then I'll flip it over right on top. So the red sides are out, the black is toward the center. Then I'm just going to use 2 more pieces of the same size dowel rod to hold those wings apart, so that I make sure that it stays centered and that it rises exactly where we want it to be. After putting some weight by my hand, I put a weight in the middle of it. After that glue has set up, give it a few minutes. Then this is how the beautiful butterfly is going to look. I love this. I love it. So now let's address the bottom. We got to have a way to stand that butterfly up. So I'm just using a little awl that I have, or it's a leather punch. I'm going to put it straight down in the middle. It's going to go through both layers of the foam that we added. I'll add some glue here. And then I will put that dowel rod straight into there. Now I could sit here and hold it until it dried if I chose to do that, but I'm not going to do that. And I'm going to show you that what I did was took a piece of wire, I went through the butterfly openings in the center and wrapped it over the monopod that holds my camera. So this is going to hold that in place as it dries while we continue to work on the project. All right, I'm going to add some hot glue here. You can see that it'll wiggle back and forth, but it is not going to come loose. I've got some of these flat rocks from Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to add these black stones to the bottom of it. A couple of things these black stones are going to do besides looking pretty. is they are going to help hold this in place. It's going to give us a little more of a support. It's also going to give us some little nooks and crannies to add some greenery or flowers into, and it will support those as well. You can choose whatever you like for this. If you want to add moss here, add your moss. If you want to put, if you want to just leave it black and not use anything to support it, just sit there and hold it for a while, you can do that. You can take rocks that are not black. You could take the little shards of crystals or the raw crystal pieces, and you could put those there. You could use a lace doily if that's what you want to go for. All right, so I've built it up just a little bit, and look at these gorgeous roses. Now these came from Temu. Again, I'm getting a lot of stuff from Temu, y'all. I am, everybody has their opinions. We don't need to discuss it, but I'm just showing you what the quality. These only cost me like $1.99 for the stem. That's right. Look how gorgeous these roses are. They're beautiful, and they are perfect for a dark romance theme, right? Perfect. They've got that red, they have that aged look, and they just fit in so nicely. They are on a wire, so the quality is definitely there. I'm going to cut it into pieces like you've seen me do here, and I'll also cut some of the greenery, and I'm going to cut the little part that connects to the stem, and I'm going to start adding these down to the cracks in those rocks. Again, it makes a great support, holds them in place, and then also it has that look, that black look, that the darkness. I think it works so well together. And I've never done it quite like this, but I love it. I hope you love it. I hope you think that this works together. It really does, in my opinion. Maybe you could use black sand here. Maybe if you're using something that's in your yard, you could just go grab a handful of stones and spray paint them black. You know, you could do that, couldn't you? So I'm just going to add the greenery pieces for the roses just here and there where I feel like they fit in and they look nice. And I'm going to make sure that I have like a graduated look. So we'll have our highest flowers, then we'll have a middle height, and then we'll have the shortest one. And so the little single rose is going to be the shortest, and I'll add that in. And I'm actually holding it longer. I cut out those pieces so you don't have to watch me do that. But I do hold it longer and add more rocks as needed for support. Still gives a natural look. Very pretty. I'm even going to add a little bit of greenery to the back of one of the other flowers. I love the look. Very pretty look. Okay, now I just decided, you know what? We need to have some sticks or some limbs or something in there to look craggy and look a little bit older, right? So I've got some of this. I pulled this out of a wreath that I thrifted. And I'm just picking the pieces apart. I'm just cutting them. They are plastic and wire, so they'll work good for this. But just grab some sticks out of your yard, you know? I'm going to cut it into pieces and then add these pieces here and there to give it just that little something extra, that little something aged and beautiful. Plus, y'all know I love my greenery. You know that on my channel. I love the greenery. And although there is no greenery on the stem, there's something about the movement that this gives. Just as a whole. You know what I'm saying? I guess that's maybe the artist in me coming out, but sometimes I can't convey it as well as I mean to. But look at the difference. Just that little bit. The first project is going to be a raven flag sign. Okay, so we're going to take some flowers, whichever one you want to use out of your stash. I have some of these beautiful purple cosmos and some of those little silk roses with the rhinestones. I'm going to use some black tulle. This beautiful sign that I got from Temu. It's just a little fabric sign. Gorgeous. And then this I got it dirt cheap, but you can see that it was from Target. Okay. You're going to need some little hangers for the back if your sign doesn't come with it, and this one did, so I won't have to worry about that. Now these signs, so far, and I've used a few of these, they are two-sided, which is wonderful because not only do they look better and more substantial, but you can take these apart and then use the same print 2 times. Talk about save your money. Yeah. By the way, this is not a sponsored video. Not at all. I just really like this beautiful flag. So I'm going to just kind of pull it apart, and then, you know, you can have rough edges like this on your project if you want, or you can take the side that still has the little folded seams, and that's what I'm going to use for this one. I'll put the other side for another day, and then I'll try to get the right spacing on here for the sign, and I'm just going to glue it down. I like to start like in the middle once I get my placement right, so I'm not losing my placement. Now I'm double checking there before I press it down. Then I'll go around the bottom, and it does overhang on the sides, so I'll just kind of wrap it around on the sides and glue it down. And then we'll do the same process on the top. Once it's all down, I just want to trim it out. You don't have to do this part if you don't want to, or perhaps you could set it up a little higher on your sign, but I think the embellishments make it look nice, a little more substantial, so we're going to go with that. I'm just using some of this, it's just a little roll of like burlap, meshy type ribbon. I'm going to use that here. So now it's all trimmed out. Look how nice and beautiful that looks. You can leave this alone just as is if you like something that is simple, or you can add some embellishments like I am. We're going to take a 9-inch fold, and we're just going to flip it over a few times. So that's 1 fold, 2, 3. Now this does not have to be precise, and you don't have to use as many folds as I do, but the more folds that you make, the more fluffy this is going to be. So that is totally up to you. And like I mentioned before, you can skip this part. And then you can just trim it off when you get it as long as you want it. Now I like to use jute most of the time, but this is so frail, I figured if I put jute on here and kind of cinched it really tight that it might kind of cut through it. So I just decided to use another piece of this tulle, just cut a little strip, and I'll use that to go around the middle. Now you can get tulle at Dollar Tree now, so if you want to do that, you can certainly do that. Now I'm going to flip it over, and we're going to do this just like we would any old bow that we do. Okay, so if you're not used to working with the tulle, it is not a big deal. We're not doing anything real fancy here with this tulle. I just like the wispiness of it, and I feel like it's really that black, wispy, almost kind of a fog or hazy type thing. It's very Edgar Allan Poe-ish, if you will. So, if we're going to go with the raven here, I want to continue that and make it look nice and fluffy and, you know, old and cute. So I'm just going to go through the ends here, and if you don't want to go through the ends and give it kind of little jaggedy cuts, you don't have to. You can always leave it in a loop, but I like the idea of being able to pull this out in all kinds of directions. I'm just tucking this, the little string we made from the tulle, it's over and under that top ribbon, because the top one I did not glue it straight down. It's not glued down yet. I wanted to have a little space where I could tie something to it. Just a little extra security. Now you can see that the raven is almost like a violet kind of color. It's coming off as like a violet, and there are some other things in the picture that have that purplish look. But rather than calling that a problem because it's not solid black, we're going to go with it because I love the red and the purple and the black and the way this looks together. And I love these cosmos. I've used these in projects last Halloween and was very satisfied with them. And they came from Dollar Tree, but the quality is fantastic. So I'm just going to cut off the little tab thingies that stick into the wire pieces, to cut those off so that this can be more flat. And I'm just going to glue the leaves straight onto the back of the flower. Always, always, when you get these layered flowers, make sure that you rotate them a little bit because they're in layers. So you can kind of splay them out a little bit rather than have them all clumped up and only looking like 4 leaves. We don't want to do that. See how you can kind of twist it around so you get to fill in all those gaps. See what I'm doing here? Very, very easy. Just a little bit of hot glue to put the leaves back on, and then it's trimming off the little stem part. See this little part? We're going to cut that little plastic off because now everything is connected together, so it's not going to fall apart. And I want to add another one on this side. You see the butterflies on this picture? This is gorgeous. I want everything in my house for Halloween to look just like this. I don't know if I'm going to go with this theme or not because I love the vintage look. But when I'm thinking vintage, I usually do something like, you know, the orange and black and white circusy type Halloween stuff. Which I love, by the way, love it very much. But I think I may try something a little more mature this year, a little more romantic, spooky. What do you think? And y'all, I know, some of y'all are going, why in the world are you doing Halloween in the summertime? We haven't even done fall. Well, this is for all those people who love Falloween or Halfoween or what do you call it, Springoween. So yeah, as I was saying, this is for those of you who love that spooky lifestyle and who want to enjoy these mystical and spooky looks through your house all year long, because not everybody is into that, and that's fine. And if you're not ready for this, you know, just save it and you can come back and watch this video at the end of summer or in fall or in October, whatever you would like to do. So this is the final look, and oh my goodness, I love it. My bow, believe it or not, is a little too big up here, or my little fluffy thing. Just trim it down a little bit, fluff it out, kind of like bat wings or moth wings. So you can also cut into these pieces of tulle to give them a jagged edge, kind of snip at it. Pulling at it doesn't really work. I tried that, but that didn't really work. So cut it where you can. Oh, y'all love this. I absolutely love this print, and I'm so inspired by this print. I think you'll see. We have another project where I'm going to be using the raven. Hope you like this one. Now for the caged raven. This I ordered from Temu because I thought he was beautiful, but I do not like that wood he's standing on. It does not look real. This actually would hang on a wall, I do believe. It's got that little hanger port in the back, but you get a good look at him. Love all the colors they did on him there. I'll use a chocolate brown and a buff, and I'm going to use some spray paint. Spray paint is going to be used for the foam, the bottom, and the cage. This is going to be the bottom. It's actually a sign, but it fits perfectly. Going to use a stem to cut flowers off of, probably the cosmos that we used. This is about 16 inches for reference. I did get this at the thrift store. So now I'm going to go spray paint it. Foam too now, foam too. Now, while that's drying, we have to address this stick that he's standing on, or this branch that he's standing on, because I'm not digging those unnatural colors. Not for this. So I'm going to take that chocolate brown and go all over where it is brown, and I'm being very careful. This is a rounded tip brush, so I can get into all those little cracks. I can push up to where the other color is, and I don't have to worry about making a big mess. I just feel like I have a little more control. If you like yours that way when you buy it, you certainly can keep it that way. I think I paid like $4 for this. Not really sure. Gorgeous though, going along with our raven theme. And then everywhere that it is that yellow color, I am going to put that buff color. I'm going to dry it, just because for me dry time is important, so I can get these projects out to y'all. You can set it aside and let it dry if you'd like. I'm going to take a really skinny tip brush and go over his eyes. I want those to be black. Black is a dark soul. You know, we're talking about Halloween here. We're being playful here. Okay? I don't go for any of that dark stuff or negativity. Y'all know I stay positive. But this is such a beautiful theme, I think. So romantic and beautiful. Okay, and you know I like my old stuff. I like that old vintage stuff. I'm 50, so I'm into the old stuff. Now I've brushed most of the paint off of that brush, and I'm just sort of dry brushing over the little high spots. And now that looks a whole lot more like a stick, in my opinion. So now I need to put this foam down on this wood. I decided to use some of this little nano tape stuff. This is the ones that I got from Temu. I'm just going to peel that off, stick it down on that foam. There we go. It's a really thick gel-like tape. It doesn't want to stick to the foam by itself, naturally. Nothing ever does, right? But I'm going to push it down into that. I decided, you know what, we're really going to try to make this work. Because the hot glue would kind of melt it. So we're just going to try this and see how it works. And so far, very satisfied with it. It has not come out of place. Now I'm going to put pressure on it and hold it there for, you know, a minute or two so that it really locks down on that wood. It hasn't moved. I've turned it upside down. It's not moving at all. So yes, very happy with that. Yay! Another tool for the toolbox, the crafting toolbox. I'm going to take another piece of that black ribbon, that burlap ribbon, and go around it. Use any ribbon you have. And I know that 1-inch ribbon is very easily found at the Dollar Tree. Hopefully your Dollar Tree will have it, because some people's Dollar Trees have barely anything, unfortunately. Okay, so I'm going to take this, which I also spray painted black, and I'm going to use some of my tape here, and I'm going to put it down on the back to hold it onto this bird. I don't want him falling, and if I only use hot glue, he may pop off, and I don't have the time to wait on super glue. So I'm going to take my glue gun and go right down the little channel where I put the pieces on. Now to all be locked in together. I'm going to poke it down in my foam where he's fairly centered, and I will add my E6000 around the hole. Just going to use a little stick here to kind of smear it around to make sure that he doesn't come out. Give him time to dry. You'll have a little bit easier of a time. You can find paper shreds at Dollar Tree. I already had these, as they came in something that I got from Shaper Mint, I do believe, or it may have come out of my hair dye box. I'm not sure, but anyway, I'm recycling it from something else. I love to save this kind of stuff, and it looks spooky and scraggly, and I just like it. I'm going to roll it into some little balls because it's just easier to manage that way, and then place those all around. They're not glued on or anything. Then you can see that it fits when I sit it down. Then if you wanted to, you could, you know, cut off your edges to make sure they're nice and straight. But I like that they're kind of fly away. But here it is. My bird's not quite dry. I'm trying to support him a little. Here it is so far. And I'm not going to glue the cage down. I want the option of being able to take this out and use it for something else. So I've got some more of those beautiful cosmos left. And I'm going to do the same thing as I told you before. Push those around, make them look nice. And you see I've slid the leaves all the way up to the top. That fills in any open spaces or blank spots where you can see through them. It gives it a little more fullness so you don't have to use as much of your florals. Trim down wherever you need to trim down, because I don't want these all at the same height. I want them sort of staggered. I hope y'all saw the owl in the cage that I did last year. I loved it. It was stunning. And, you know, just in my opinion. And a lot of people said, you should have done something different with his eyes. You're totally right, and I think I may go in and add something to his eyes. I'm not sure yet, but I like that the raven has black eyes and a black beak, and the rest of him has that beautiful moonlight look. I'm using the cosmos because they are something that is in my other projects, so these things are a little more cohesive. Certainly use deep red, black roses, whatever you have. This purple really pops against the rest of that black. This is a really easy, in my opinion, project to do. It does take time though, because you got to let glue dry and you got to let the paint dry. Next project is a hand mirror upcycle. Easiest one we got. Easiest one we got. I'm going to use a scrap of paper, some painter's tape, going to use some sterling silver or some wrought iron, whatever, a chippy brush, and a Dollar Tree mirror. Look at the detail on this mirror that you don't even see because it's flat. It's flat black. It needs some highlight, right? And so I know that we can give this a little upcycle. You know this too, right? Let's trim down an oval that will fit close enough around our mirror. We're going to glue it down. My tape decided to stick on my hand rather than on the paper, so I'm just going to put it on the mirror. It'll come off really easy. I put that paper, making sure that it doesn't overlap onto the black, and then I'll tear my painter's tape into little sections so that I can curve it around with the curve of the mirror and the frame so that I protect the mirror, but I get the beautiful look that I want with lots of dimension on that frame. You're going to go all the way around and do it like this. All the way around. Now, I am going to grab that silver paint and my handy dandy brush. This is a very chippy brush. I usually use it for glue, so it's a little bit stiffer. And I am going to just start laying that paint across. I'm looking at it like, do I want to start on the edges? Do I just want to go back and forth? And the easiest way to do it is to just get started. It's only paint. If you mess it up, let it dry, spray paint it black. I mean, that's all you have to do, and you start over, right? And you start over. But I like to start light, and then I just build it up. And so that's what I'm doing here, is just building it up. In the areas that I know there's a lot of raised pieces or a lot of detail, I really want to go over those edges really well. I want that to show up. And to me, this looks like a silver piece that is old and tarnished now, rather than looking like a black piece with silver on it. And it looks like a very tarnished piece. But look how pretty that is now. So easy to make. And if you're living that spooky life, you can certainly put a piece like this in your house and keep it out all year long. It will be nice in a display also. So once it's dry, this is how it is going to look. Very pretty. And we can take this off and see how it looks. Take off your tape and clean that mirror up. A little alcohol will do it. And then get you a nice dry cloth. Hey, there's my camera. And my tripod. And the junk in the room. Okay, so that's how that's going to look without showing you me, because that really would be a Halloween video. The first project is a framed raven art. I'm going to be using some black chalk paint, rich espresso, and some metallic. You can also use bronze if that's what you like, or silver. I'm going to use some mounting tape and this beautiful piece of canvas artwork that I got from Temu. I have a frame that I already had, and I'm going to give it a makeover. It's got a little canvas in here, or it's kind of like a fabric, you know? Okay, so we always start by cleaning everything down. We want to have a nice, clean background for any paint that we add. That way we don't have any bumps and lumps, and, you know, we just want a nice finish. For pieces of fabric on a frame, I like to use any type of a brush to clean that as well. I'm going to take this wonderful chalk paint, and I am going to just put it all over the entire front of this frame and down on the sides. When it dries, it will look like this, and what you can see still in the dark areas, that's where it's still a little bit wet, but I'm going to let it dry. It is in the process of drying now. All right, once it is thoroughly dry, and you can see how matte it is, so you can see that it is thoroughly dry, I'm going to add some of this beautiful paint and just kind of add it to the brush. I'm going to use a chippy brush, and then I'm going to tap a lot of it off. It's going to push that beautiful metallic color up into the bristles, and it's going to make it a little bit lighter when you apply it. And the idea is to make this look like a kind of a bronzed piece, like an aged bronze piece. Now I also have bronze paint, but this one I just liked better. I just liked it better, and it does look still like a bronzy color to me, so that's what I'm doing. So I like to use my strokes back and forth and then go in and also do it from side to side so that it hits all those high points and it gets on those side pieces as well. There's so much detail in this frame. It looked really nice as it was, but I'm choosing warmer tones rather than the cooler tones of the silver and the cream that were on there. The inner lip of this frame is also elevated, so there's just a lot of stuff going on in this frame. I'm going to add and just gradually build up the amount of paint that I put on this section. And the section that is black, that was fabric in there that we covered up, which is still fabric, but it's going to stay black. I want to leave that rich black background for that area. So I just slowly just build it up a little bit at a time till I get it where I like it. And don't worry, if you get a spot that gets a little too much paint, just gonna add a little bit of black on top of it and you'll be fine. So I can't glue directly to this board because whatever this is sheds really bad. So I am just going to hot glue a piece of support everybody, you know? Support everybody. There's room for everybody in this field that we're in. All right, so I'm gonna add some of that mounting tape. My double stick tape was not strong enough to hold this flat, so the mounting tape does a very good job for this. I want to put it as close as I can up to the edge, and I did cut it long ways in half so that it wouldn't show when I press this down. I don't want it to wrinkle, or, you know, I want it to look like it cost a lot of money, not like I paid $3, you know, for it. All right, so I'm just going to press that down. That mounting tape is like a double stick, so it works really well. I'm going to make sure I don't have any wrinkles, and just if I need to change it, I can change it. And this way, I'm putting it right down on that piece of poster paper, and it'll stay. Now, this already has an aged look, which is wonderful, but I want to make it a little darker. So I'm going to grab some of my Waverly wax, and I'm going to get a baby wipe, and I'll rub that in really well. And then I am going to use that to just darken it up a little bit more. I really want this to be moody and dark and slightly gothic. You know, you can kind of use your imagination. Some people are even calling it like a dark cottagecore, which is really cool, I think. I've been adding some darker colors and heavier items to my bedroom, and oh my gosh, I am loving it. It's so cozy. I'm just absolutely loving it. And then I've had quite a few times where I found some nice older books that are just beautiful, and I'm adding those to my room too, so maybe a little academia too. Who knows? Now be sure that you let that dry. You want that to be completely dry, because if you don't, it's a wax, and every time you touch it, you'll be lifting that off and you'll have little spots on there. All right, now I'm going to place it back down where it was. And you can see it's a little bit long, but I just let it hang over on the edge, no problem. This was nailed in, and I did not want to nail it in because I like to repurpose things. So I'm going to use a little bit of hot glue and these paint stir sticks to kind of hold this in place. It is elevated above that inner lip, so there's no way to really get it flat across. So this was a really good way for me to support that canvas. I'm going to add some hardware on the back so that it can be hung up properly, not to fall off and break anything. And I'm just showing you what I do. 4 inches from the edge, and then I put it like halfway. You can see it's like halfway from the end. A little bit of hot glue just to hold it in place while I nail it. I'm going to go to the other side and I'll do the same thing. Now the nails that come with this little kit, this came from Dollar Tree, they're very small. So using some type of a plier will help you with that, to help you hold that still while you hammer it. And look at this little beauty. I love this. This did not take a lot of work. This did not take a lot of time, and this is definitely something that you can do. The next piece is going to be a Gothic candelabra. So I found this recently at Goodwill bin store, and I knew exactly what I wanted to do with this. How perfect is this going to be underneath that beautiful framed piece of art with the raven on it? Yes. So I'm calling this Gothic. You can call this whatever you want. This was made in the USA and it is old. Okay, so we're going to use possibly some candles from Dollar Tree. I am going to take some matte black paint and I am going to clean this, and then I am going to spray paint it, and then we're going to dry brush some more of that espresso on it. And by the way, thank you to one of my viewers who told me that it's pronounced espresso. My whole life, as country as I am, we have said espresso. That is incorrect. So if it bothered anyone, I'm so sorry. You know, it is what it is. So now I know. You know better, you do better. So anyway, now I'm going to start just wherever I want to at the top, so I don't have to worry about trying to hold it and touch the paint that I've already put down. So I'm going to add this on here. I'll be a little more generous on this piece than I was on the frame because I just really wanted to highlight it, you know, on the frame. And for this, I really want to make this look, you know, a little more richer and a little more, I don't know, a little more bronze than black. Let's just say what it is. That's what it is. I'm going to brush this in all of those areas, and you can see the difference that it makes if you look to the right side and to the left side of the frame. If it was left black, you would not see any of those beautiful details. To me, this looks like an expensive iron piece, but it's not. It's just a, you know, like the resin that they use. It's just a simple, inexpensive piece. This probably could have come from, what was the name of that? Was it Home Decor, Home Interiors? That's what it was. You know, possibly a piece like that. If you can find those kinds of things, that would be really nice to redo. And have some beautiful, beautiful pieces too. So look at the difference that this makes. I'm leaving all this in because if you're not someone who's ever done this before, I want you to feel encouraged. I want you to feel brave. And I want you to do something different. You might even have something in your house already that's black. That maybe you had farmhouse like me. I had farmhouse for a long time. And now I want to add some color back into my life. I want to add some richness and coziness that I am not finding anymore from that airiness that comes with farmhouse. I just want to feel like I am just wrapped up in comfort and, oh, like Harry Potter stuff, you know the feeling. That's what I'm trying to do. But I don't want to spend a lot of money doing it. And I want mine to be my own, right? Because in this channel, we make it my own and we do it on a budget. And you can certainly do this on a budget. Maybe you can find it at a garage sale if you don't have good thrift stores. Or make something that, take something you already have. Offer to clean out grandma's closet or mom's closet or your sister's closet. And maybe you can find something like that. So here are the ones from Dollar Tree and here are the ones from IKEA. These were thrifted. These I like much better. However, they both fit. So either way, you can use either candle. Now I'm going to do a little something extra on these candles because I want them to appear old and used. So we're going to give them a little bit of a little spiffing up. I have taken the plastic off. I have removed with my Goo Gone all of the residue from the stickers. And I am now going to make it look like we've got wax dripping. I did a candle last year using I think it was a Dollar Tree napkin that had a raven on it. Absolutely stunning. I am so pleased with that candle because it was also a plastic candle, a battery operated candle. It turned out wonderful. It had lots of drips on it. It looked so old. But we're going to do something similar with these. So you can take your heating tool or your blow dryer, whatever you have, blow over the top of it when you're adding your layers, and it will smooth out those layers to look like one melted waxy situation. Now you can add on, put more drips on there if you want. Keeping in mind, gravity's going to pull it downward, so just, I'm trying to be a little more realistic, not going sideways with it, because in my house, wax doesn't go sideways. That would be a different video. Okay, so once that is done and cooled, then you can lay it down. I'm going to take a little bit of my painter's tape from Dollar Tree and go right around the fire part, because I don't want any paint on here. I am not digging the color of these candles, and I need to make the hot glue grips look the same color as the candle. So I'll be taking 3 of these into my garage with a fan and some ventilation, and I will be painting them to make them all look the same and all look a little more realistic. I mean, we know it's a fake candle. We wouldn't be putting tape over the actual flame. So my heirloom white I put on there, and then I took some of my alcohol spray and I sprayed all over the candle. Little flicks. You can flick on some dark paint if you want to, but this is just a tarnished silver color that I sprayed on here. Then I'm going to take my brush and some antique wax, and you can also, I don't know that I would use a baby wipe. It might lift up the alcohol drops, the paint drops. So I just wanted to use my chippy brush and a dry paper towel to rub that in. I'm going around where the wax is. I'm going around the top all the way to the bottom, because the little rubber part on the bottom, which turns the candle on and off, is where it's going to sit down in the cups on the candelabra. And I want to make sure that it is a solid finish all the way down to that point. So when we take it off, isn't that better? Doesn't that look grungy and better, like it's been in an old home? Yes. I'm going to go around, just make sure that you get all around the areas of the candle that have where you have made some wax drips on the top, to really give it a nice look. If you have never been to my channel before and you have never met me before, my name is Brandy, and I'm all about inexpensive, beautiful, unique DIYs. So thank you for watching as part of a playlist, or just if you found the video on my channel or in suggestions or wherever you found it. I would love to have you as part of my YouTube family. We are very active in the comments in all of our videos, and I do respond to everyone. So feel free to leave me a comment and tell me what you think about this. Won't this be stunning with that picture? All right, the next one is going to be a poison wood round. All right, we're going to use some matte Mod Podge. A big brush for that, of course. I've got this beautiful fabric from Dollar Tree. Love this fabric. Some more black chalk paint. Some more espresso. And there is that misting spray that I used on the candles. And I'll show you how to use it here. Harnished silver. I have my sanding block. I have this sign from Dollar Tree. And I have one of these thrifted wood rounds. So it's 16 inches. It needs a lot of love. I'm going to pull off the hanger from the back and remove all the staples. I will sand that down smooth. And then you can use a sander and do it by hand, but mine needed a lot of work, so I took it outside and used my hand sander. Then I'm going to wipe away all of the dust. I don't want any sawdust on there. And look at this piece of fabric. It is gorgeous. It's got potion bottles and spiders and bats and spider webs, and oh, it just has that grungy look that I want. So I'm going to take that Mod Podge and put it all over here. I'm using matte Mod Podge. It is just preferred for me because I don't want it to be shiny when it dries. No, no, no shiny. Not this. Not this. All around, make sure you go all the way down the edges, because I'm going to show you a way that you can trim this down that is so much easier than trying to get super close with your scissors and just losing your mind because it's so frustrating. So I'm just going to lay this down in that Mod Podge. I'm going to press it with my fingers. Make sure that I'm pressing out wrinkles and bubbles. If you work sort of from the inside to the outside, you can push the bubbles right over the edge, and that's a good way to do it. For me, that's just my opinion, but it always works for me. So I'm just going to continue to press and push it down into that Mod Podge. I like to use a big wooden ruler to really kind of iron this down, if you want to think of it that way. Really press it into there. Really get all the wrinkles out. I'm going to cut off any excess, and you can use that on something else if you want. You could even do some smaller candles in this if you wanted to. And then I'll take some more of that Mod Podge. I'm at the bottom of that bottle. Gotta run and get some more. I'm gonna go all the way over the edges, all the way over the edge, not just to it, but over it, because we're gonna make this fabric papery. It's gonna change the texture completely of the fabric so that we can do something special with it. Keep watching though. You don't want to miss it. You're going to keep going around, and then after you get all the edges, for me, I like to work, around those edges because it takes a little longer to dry, and then I go all over the inside. Now if you're using Mod Podge, you can let this dry overnight. You can put it in front of a fan, whatever you want to do. I dried mine with the heating tool. Okay, I'm also going to sand down a little bit on my Dollar Tree sign because these can be a little bit rough too. They're just blanks, they're blank pieces, and it is up to us to do the extra work that it takes to make it look a little more high-end. So sand it, blow off the dust, wipe the dust off, brush it off, and then we're going to remove the tag, and we're going to fill in that little hole. I just use a little tape on the back, and then I'm going to press some of this little spackling down into it and then level it off, and then you can let that dry. Okay, let's go back over to the base sign. Now you can see here when I cut it, it's almost like well, it's a little stronger than construction paper. It's pretty tough. But then if you do it right, you can take your sanding block and go around it with the sanding block, just like you do if you put paper on there, and it will come off completely right to the edge if you did it right, and you'll have a nice smooth beautiful edge. So now I'm going to take this, make it look a little bit more aged and grungy. So I'm going to dip into that with a foam brush and just go over the edge. I'm going to go over the edge, and then I'll go slightly to the inside. This is one of those things that if you take the time to do this, it's going to change the look of it. It's going to give you something special that nobody else has. And that's what I like to do. I like to show you how to make it your own. So that's what we're doing here. I'm going to go around the edge and cover all that up. And of course, you need to paint your back. I did go outside and spray paint mine black because it has it's pink on the back. So I wanted to cover that up. And then with what's left on the brush, you can start going to the insides, and it's going to cause like a shadow effect on it. You can see here the difference. See the difference there? I like the look of that, and I think it's kind of mimicking what's already going on in the fabric because there are some lighter areas and some darker areas there. At this point, also, if you wanted to bring that gray down and warm it up a little bit, you could certainly do that by just using what's left on that baby wipe that had the antiquing wax on it. You can definitely do that for a little extra dimension. Look what I did. I broke the brush. Talk about a die-hard crafter there. Okay, so now I'm going to take my brush. It is very dry. It's got some paint from before on it. And I'm just going to go all over the edges of that. I'll go back the other way now, just like I did when I was putting down that espresso, and flick it all over the edges. It just kind of speckles it out a little bit. I don't know exactly the terminology for it, but it just really gives it... I know y'all are tired of all of us crafters talking about depth and dimension, but it does. It does. And it just brings a different... Look at that. Look at the difference that makes. We're going to let that dry. And then this I spray painted. And that is in a flat black. Now we're going to work on it. So there's that espresso on my little pouncer. You can do this any way that you like, but to me this is easier than using a brush because you can get all down in those little cracks, and this is just so much faster. Plus, to me, it gives it a little bit more of an aged look. But you tell me what you think. Do you like the look of this? I love doing it this way. I'm going to go up to the little trim, but on the top, which you can't really see right now, but you will soon, the skull and crossbones, I don't want my bones or the skull to be this color. We're going to do it a little bit differently. So I'm just focusing on the word and the little swirlies that are around it. I'm going to go around the edge very lightly at first. I know you can barely see it, and then slowly build up the little aging all around the sign. Just pouncing it around. I'm trying to use the smallest amount so I don't get too crazy with it. And then, like I said, you're just going to build it up. And if you get areas that are too dark, again, all you have to do is maybe take another pouncer, dip back into that black, and just go back over it. And that'll clear that up for you. You see right there where I got a little too much? That's what I did. Now, after I pounce it, I'm going to take my brush and go all the way around the edges. I'm using, I think that's the same brush that I had the black paint in. Yes, I think it is. And I just went ahead and used it to do this. And I think it works fine that way. It's no problem at all. But I will fix that little spot on the top in the way that I told you that you can fix yours. I'm going to make sure I go all around my letters and the little skull. See, I got a little bit on his bones, but that's okay. That is okay. So I've got some buff, and I'm going to go over this with buff, the little brush. And I probably could have used a little pouncer for this too, like a smaller one, but to get the line of division between the top of the word and the bones, I thought using a brush would probably be the better option. I gave this to Coach just because I wanted to. Really wasn't necessary because we're still going to age it, because we want every bit of these pieces to look nice together. Look, I'm wearing my glasses, y'all. Are you proud? I've gotten to that age. I'm 50 years old, so I'm to the point where my body's like, yes, sis, you're going to be needing some help from here on out. So that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing. I'm protecting my eyes. I need my eyes for my work, right? I really do. I have to have it to be able to do this job that I love so much. All right. This is very simple. We all know how to paint at this point, probably. I know there are some new people, though, that don't know, and I don't want to exclude anyone. So I like to leave some things in here for you so that you can see what I'm doing. I am not going to go in the inside of the nose, the mouth, or the eyes. I want those to remain black. But you certainly could put in some glow-in-the-dark paint here. You could do some, like a bead or a rhinestone in there if you would like. I'm not going to do that because to me that would make it more of a pirate type thing, and I'm really not going for that, so I'm just going to skip that part. But you feel free to do it any way that brings you joy. Alrighty, so I've got my paint on there and it is now dry, and we will move on to the next step. This is just a little stencil brush. I'm going to go over it with a little bit of that same bronzy color. It's a very stiff little brush. You know, again, if there's something that you see me do and you don't like it or you wouldn't have done it, you just do it the way that you like it. What I do for me is completely how I like it, and I really encourage you to do it your own way. And you can use completely different colors if you want. You can go crazy with this thing. If you don't like the darker colors and you don't like the theme, then you can use a different sign, you know. Just take the inspiration from it, right? I mean, for all of us crafters, we want you to be inspired by what we do, and we want you to be able to do it yourself. Don't feel like you can't do it, or that there's something wrong with yours because it doesn't look like mine or Annie's or someone else's, you know? Now I'm just going around with a little bitty bit of that black just to, you know, kind of pop around the eyes and the mouth, and see the difference that it makes layering all that paint. Yes, it does take a little more time, but man, it's worth it. Look how this looks. I like this very much. Very, very much. And it's just paint, right? If you mess it up, you can go back and fix it. No problem. It's my little final touches on here. A little black and bronze together. And you're going to want to let that dry completely. It doesn't take long because we didn't use heavy layers. All right, now that the Mod Podge and the paint on the edge is completely dry, I'm going over here with a little bit of that bronze because, again, everything needs to be matchy-matchy for this. Probably matchy-matchy is not a good idea, but the theme needs to be similar. I don't want anything to stand out more than the next thing, right? So just to get my orientation right, I'm showing you here that the placement of these bottles is going to give me my placement for the sign that I'm adding on top. And that's how I'm going to do it. I'll add some hot glue here. I don't want it popping off. This will be inside, but if you want to put it outside, you're definitely going to have to use a weather-resistant Mod Podge, and you're going to have to use Gorilla Glue to hold everything in place, or some type of a super glue. Pressing it down. And you can weight it down if you want, but in my experience, the glue dries fairly quickly, so it's not necessary. Now look at, you can see on my table better than you can probably see on there, where I have kind of held it about 2 feet away and flicked it all over there. That really gives it more of an aged look. For project number 1, we are going to be doing a spider frame. We're going to use some spider web and some creepy cloth, this Dollar Tree sign with the skulls on it, and then this is a thrifted frame. It's got some wire across it. Maybe a little girl had it for bows, I'm not sure. But I thought this would look very pretty with this. So on the edge of this Dollar Tree sign, it's kind of rough. You can kind of see the little MDF or cardboard. So I'm just going to take my little emery board here and just file this down. I found this at Dollar Tree. It's really good for these projects where you got to get around the little bumps and curves. Look, I'm filing his teeth there. And just go all the way around so that you don't see the paper sticking out. I'm going to use my antiquing wax and a baby wipe and just dot some on there and rub it together, and we are going to make some shadowing and some dimension on this by going around the edges all the way around. And you can make this as wide as you would like. If you would prefer to do this with a brush, if you like the brush strokes, you can do that, but I really like to do this. I feel like I have a little more control with a wipe and my fingers. You want to put the shadows where the eye orbits are, around the nose area, maybe around the jawline, and where the heads sit on top of one another, because those are the places that you would naturally see shadows. And by doing this, you're going to make this Dollar Tree sign look a lot more expensive. Now while that is drying, we are going to work on this beautiful frame. Now this is a white frame, and it's a bright white, and I prefer a more rustic look, a more aged look. And certainly if this is something that we would find in a haunted home, a haunted house, then we would want it to be more dark. We would think that it would be maybe aged or gilded or something like that. For me, I am going to just make it look like it is very aged and kind of dusty and dirty, like it would be if it was in a very old home. So I'm just using a dry brushing technique for this, dotting it in that wax, dotting most of it off, and then going back over all of the indentions and details and raised areas on here. Don't worry about if it looks like it's too dark, because we're going to be wiping back most of this. What I mean by that is I'm going to be using a dry cloth and wiping off all of the areas on the top. And that's really going to bring more attention to the recessed areas. If you want to send me an email with some of the projects you have done that maybe I've inspired you to do, feel free to send them to me at my email address, which is in the description box below. I would love to see it, and I would also love at some point to feature some of these projects on my channel so that you get some attention to your work. Continue around all the way till you get as much detail as you want, and then here I am taking that dry cloth and just wiping it off. So the top parts are going to be, you see how that looks so much more detailed now? I'm going to give you a closer look. I'll lift it up for you and let you see. See the difference? Oh, I love this. I've had this frame for probably a year and a half waiting to do a project like this. So I'm going to use some of this black spider web. Certainly if you prefer to use the white, you can do that. If you like the neon, the purples, the pinks, the whatever you have, just go ahead and use that to suit your taste. And then there's a depression around here, and I thought, okay, well, I wasn't really sure how it would work using hot glue just on the fabric. So I thought if we would use some popsicle sticks, they'll fit right down in that area, and it should kind of trap the spider web between the frame and the popsicle stick, and that would hold it together better. So that's just what I did, but you can use whatever technique that you've used previously and whatever works best for you. You know, I'm learning too. I don't have any training in doing this type of thing. It's just self-taught. Everything I do is self-taught. My florals, the painting, everything is just self-taught. So I'm still learning too, just like you are. Alright, so now I'm going to take some of this creepy cloth. Now this is more like it's almost like a cheesecloth, but it's called creepy cloth, but it's not like the ones from Dollar Tree. I got it at the thrift store and I really couldn't tell you. However, I feel like whether you use this type or the one with the looser weave, any of that would look good. This is just going to give it a little more dimension again, and I'm going to, you can see I'm trimming it now, but I use the same technique when I put the spider web down. I use just a little bit more of the popsicle stick, you can see the smaller pieces, to just glue that one down right on top of it, just sandwich in between. And so now that we've got the back finished, and I'm satisfied with that, I'm going to go ahead and work on how we're going to attach this sign down to the frame. Luckily there are lots of little gaps in the frame on the side, so we can just use our pipe cleaners and some hot glue, and I'm just using some masking tape, and press these into place so that we have something to put through those open areas and attach it to the frame. These little spatulas are great to keep you from burning your fingers, because the glue gun I'm currently using will take your fingerprints off. Yeah, that's the big boy over there. Now I'm just going to feed these through this frame, and I hope y'all can find something like this. Maybe you have an old mirror that's broken. You could get the frame. I feel like this was probably a mirror at one point, and somebody else repurposed it, and when they were done, they took it to the thrift store, and so I was able to benefit from it. It's like a plastic material. It's very, very lightweight, so it didn't cost me very much at all, which is always a plus because I am super thrifty. Oh, by the way, the popsicle stick you could see there on the bottom, I do fix that. It came loose, but I do fix that, no worries. Alright, so I am going to go ahead and put some more spider web on the top of this frame. If you don't want to do this at this point, you can wait until the last step to do it, but for me, because I know I'm going to put a bow on there, I feel like it will help hold this in place. And anything I can do to make my project stick together and look good and just, you know, and be efficient with it and quick with it. We want to get our work done, but we don't want to be here all day long, and you certainly do not want your projects that you worked super hard on to fall apart. And the spider web is just kind of weird. It's not meant to be a permanent thing, you know, it's a Halloween decoration, you use it, you throw it away. Now I'm going to make a bow for it, and I'm not going to make a huge, tremendous, crazy, wacky bow, so don't be afraid. I'm going to use some of that velvet ribbon from Dollar Tree. There's only about 3 feet on a roll. I'm going to use the spiderweb ribbon from Dollar Tree, and then this is some that I've thrifted, and it's just a small piece, but I'm going to use it and work with it. So I've found when I'm working with scraps of bows that don't have the same lengths, making a funky bow is a really easy way to do it. So this is how you do it. I'm going to have about 3 or 4 inches of a loop. You can see I'm folding it over. And I'm going to pinch it about 3 or 4 inches down and then place it in the crook between my pointer finger and my thumb. I'm going to hold it tightly right there while I continue to fold, pinch, and tuck the next one. Again, if you just have scraps of bows or scraps of ribbons, this is a really easy bow to make. That is a nice looking bow. Don't you like the elegance of that black and red and the velvet and the lace? It's so pretty to me. It really looks elegant, and that's what made me think of doing these projects. Something elegant, something that you would actually see in a very old historical home that's been left alone for a long time, and maybe it's haunted by a super chic ghost. Okay, so we're going to dovetail our ends. These tails are not all the same length, and that's also not a worry with this type of bow, and you'll see in a moment. Go ahead and start fluffing out after you've got your tails all finished. Fluff out the little loops of the bow and then start pulling these up, almost like an octopus, as if the loops on top were the head of the octopus, and all of these little tails are going to be the legs. That's kind of the idea. You can lay it down and do this, or you can just do it in your hand, whichever way is easiest for you. Pull them apart and pull them away from each other, because you don't want all the same colors together. You want to kind of divide them up and get good color all the way around. So you see some of those tails are a little bit shorter. I like that. And I will be going ahead here and trimming up a little bit more here and there until I get the look that I like. It's always best to have a little bit extra. You know, I think I've mentioned that before with bows. Have a little bit extra on there, and then if you trim it off, that's okay, but it's difficult to put anything back, right? So if I wouldn't have been so overzealous, I could have put a pipe cleaner in there to attach it to my project. Hindsight, right? Okay, so we're just going to use a piece of floral wire and thread it through there. Easy. I do this all the time because I always forget to add something to attach it to the projects. I'm just going to twist it around here tightly to my frame, and I like it off to the side. Just going to do some more adjusting on the bow. Never leave a bow unfluffed. It's just not fair. It's just not right. Always fluff your bows. It makes a big, big difference. And you know I love y'all. I want you to have beautiful projects that bring you joy and make you proud when you look at it. When you pass by it, you go, I made that. Yes. So this is how she's going to look. Very nice. Not too big, not overpowering. I'm just moving that around, and I don't even glue that top layer down. I just stretch it around. Okay, another thing, last minute. I took 2 big spiders. These came from Dollar Tree. I used my building blocks on the back to give them, because they're concave, so this will give them something to stand up with. And at the end screen, you're going to see that these will be attached onto that frame. See there? Now it's got something to glue to. So stay tuned to the end. Next one is our owl cage. Okay, this is something that I have thrifted. This is an owl that I thrifted. So a bird cage and an owl. I've had this little owl for a while now too. It's time for a makeover. So we're going to use some flat black paint. Spray paint them, and then this is how they look. Gorgeous. Very pretty. Love the look of it. I've been hanging on to this project too in my head, and finally for Halloween we're gonna come together. Alright, so using some rich wine, burgundy, rust colors, we're gonna make a beautiful little home inside of this bird cage or whatever you want to call it. I'm going to use some floral foam to put on the bottom. It doesn't need to fill the entire cage up because you just don't need that much foam, and why waste it if you don't have to use it, right? Grab your cool temp glue, which I did not use, so it immediately started crackling and melting my foam. But if you just quickly press it down and hold it in place, it'll pretty much stay for you. That's my experience at any rate. If you've got a better way of doing it, go right on ahead. So I'm just going to put my glue bottle, my paint bottle, in the middle just to hold that space, so I know when I'm working my project that there's going to be space there for me to put the owl back in. So it's just a space holder, that's all. If you don't need it, then you don't have to do it. I'm going to start working in an A pattern, right, left, side to side, north, south, east, and west. That's what I'm going to do, starting off with my picks on the bottom. If I would have had more picks, I would have used these instead of using the loose leaves that I have to the side. But you never know what you're going to have, and if you're going to run out of something, I'm going to show you what you can do if you run out of your picks, but you have loose flowers. So you just take old stems from other flowers or other greenery, and you just glue them to the back of a beautiful leaf that you like. It's on wire, so it too can be bent, and then you just put it in the foam. How easy was that? That was so easy. Now, these picks that you see me putting in now are from Target. I got those on 90% clearance year before last, I think. So I've just cut it into pieces because the color is perfect for what I'm looking at. I've got some either eucalyptus or boxwood, whatever this is, that's glittery and black. I've used it in other projects. These were my last two pieces. I'm going to stand those up in the cage for the owl, so he will have some privacy in there, a little hiding spot. These little berry picks came off of some of the other greenery. I just pulled them off, and I'm just going to stick those in. They're in a deep purple color. It's just gorgeous. And these beautiful flowers, I don't know what these are. They look like camellias to me, but they are stunning. They're just beautiful. I'm going to add those around here and there. They were thrifted as well, y'all, but I know you can get them at Hobby Lobby because at my walkthrough, I saw them. Now for this one, I am going to pull the center out in the first top few layers because I want this to make a little nest. What I'm doing now is taking a wood carving tool and stabbing down on top of the leaves that I glued on the bottom. I don't know where that clip is, but I glued some down. I made that little slice so that we could put the stem from this right down on the inside. It needs to sit nice and flat because this flower is going to be the base or the nest where the owl is going to sit. So it needs to be flat. I'm going to hold it down with my hand for a while, and now you can see it forms like a little nest. Do you ever do something when you're crafting and you're like, that is just, you shock even yourself because you think, wow, that's pretty cool. I love it when a project comes together, y'all. I'm telling you right now, I'm not vain, I'm not egocentrical, I'm not stuck up, but when something works out right, I kind of want to pat myself on the shoulder. And then I can show it to you, right? And then you can do it. Doesn't he look happy in there so far? Okay. So giving him a chance to dry, let that glue dry, I'm going to go ahead and cover up the foam that is in the front with a couple of leaves. Same colors that I already have kind of going on there. And I'm using these colors again because I feel like they're elegant, they're jewel tone, they're just really beautiful and dark and mysterious. Oh, I just love it. And then once I close the cage, because the bird is in there and he's happy where he's supposed to be, I'm going to add one flower right into the front with the, where we already had those leaves, which is glued down. So that's where that flower went, right into there. It went right through the leaves into the foam. Now I'm going to turn it from side to side and make sure that it looks fairly symmetrical, nice and even, and that there's an even amount of thickness in the foliage and in the flower, so there's no gaps and everything looks pretty and neat. You know, lift it up and look around and make sure everything's like it should be. And so here I found a little space that needs a little more foliage. So I'm just going to take another pick, same beautiful colors, and just push that in there. And this is how it will look. I really like this one, y'all. Very pretty. The last and the easiest project is a framed cat. Here's a little thrifted frame that I got. And this is a lantern from Dollar Tree. I'm going to choose which panel I want to use because it has 4 panels, 2 different prints, and I like the cat, so I'm going to cut the cat part out and then make sure that it works. And yes, it is going to fit nicely in that frame. Perfect. I'm going to cut the top off. I'm going to spray that frame in this black. Once it is dry, we will proceed. Check, check, and recheck, right? I'm going to trace on a piece of scrap paper right on the inside of this frame. And then I'm going to cut right to the outside of the line. You can see I leave about 1/4 of an inch, give or take, because it does get a little bit bigger as I go around the curve here. And we're going to use this kind of as a template to make sure that I don't cut too much off, but that I have enough to glue down. It'll make sense in a minute. So I'm going to place that down and just use a little bit of regular Scotch tape, transparent tape, whatever you want to call it. And this is going to hold it in place while I cut it so nothing slips. Then I'm going to cut the same distance outside of that line to make sure I have plenty and I don't cut it too short. And I'm just cutting through the plastic part and I'm cutting through the paper part, because I know exactly where I want the cat to be positioned, and this way I can get it centered right in the frame. Just like that. Okay. I'm just using my clear Elmer's school glue for this. You could use probably E6000. I don't know how it would do on the plastic, but the Elmer's glue works nicely. I did have to wait a good bit for it to dry, but that's okay, because you know, when you're working on a bunch of projects at once, you've got time, you know, leave it alone and move on to something else, right? And this way you won't be able to see it on that plastic film. If it does, you know, if you get a little too much or whatever, you won't be able to see it. I'm gently putting it down, tapping it in place with my fingers, and just slightly kind of pulling it to the side to make sure I don't have any wrinkles. Then I'm going to press it down and then let it dry. Once it is dry, you can take some small scissors and just trim off the excess on the back. Y'all, I am so happy with all of the stories I got on my Halloween Familiars video. So many people have had black cats in their lives, and I heard so many cat names and about your childhood, and I love that. I hope we can keep doing that. It helps me get to know you, and that's special to me, because I really do love and appreciate you guys. I really, really do. So I want this to stand up, and I'm going to use these little Dollar Tree little blocks. You can get this in a pack in the Crafter Square. I just colored them with my Sharpie because, to be honest, I could not find my black furniture repair marker. So this was the next best thing. It was right there, and it does the same thing. Just makes a mess, kind of. I'm going to use hot glue to just attach that to the little parts there, and you won't be able to see it when it stands up. And look how nicely she stands. There she is, Miss. Okay, now here's the candle. So I'm going to turn it on, and you can see that it flickers. It's a little flameless candle, and it fits perfectly around that, doesn't it? It's going to look good together. I want to make it look a little richer, so I'm going to take some of this bronzy paint, and I'm going to be kind of dry brushing this. The little paintbrush is from Dollar Tree, and these are good. I can't recommend all paintbrushes, but for me, these work really good for this technique. I just started off by going over the rosebuds and the rose just to kind of see how much coverage I wanted. But then I decided to go ahead and just, there's little dots on the frame. I wanted to go ahead and go around all of those dots and just bring that out. Just really bring it out. I don't want to have completely matte black on this or satin black. Got to bring some richness back into it, right? We got all those beautiful colors and tones in the frame and in the owl, so we need it here too. And you see how that just highlighted all those high spots? Highlighted that. Looks so nice. And I think she's... The next is going to be a Dollar Tree crystal ball. Y'all recall I did one last year, but this one's even better. Look what we're going to make. Okay, so this is just a little thrifted wood piece, but look at this globe light, y'all. It is color changing. I got this at Dollar Tree. Can you believe it? Yes, and it's Greenbrier. It is actually a Dollar Tree, and it's over there with the light bulbs and the night lights and stuff. So here it is. It's going to take, I think I had AA batteries in it, 2 AA batteries. I'm going to take some silver paint, and it's like a darker silver. I'm going to use 2 of these round tags or hanging decor pieces from Dollar Tree. I'm going to use some of this wire ribbon from Dollar Tree also. And of course, we always start by taking everything off. Take off your stickers, take off your hanging tags, and then give it a sanding if it's something that is wood. I just don't trust wood. I've seen pieces or used pieces before that look like they would be fine, and I ended up with splinters. I don't want to do that, right? I don't want to do that. I don't have as much collagen as I used to have, so let's not do that. So dust them off after you get done sanding them, and then you need to get that ribbon and you need to wrap around. And because it's metal, I'm just going to use my stapler. I'm going to leave it in a place where it's not so obvious, where I could get it maybe to the back, but we'll paint over it and you're not even going to see the little staple in there. Now it can still move around freely, but I don't want the gunk from glue. So I'm just going to slide it down where it's flat, sits flat on one side, and the little overhang only goes to the other side, if that makes sense to you. Now I'm going to measure how much I need for the base of this and cut it off. Now I was able to use my scissors for this. It wasn't hard to do. But you can use wire cutters if you only have like 1 pair of scissors. I have a bunch of scissors over there. Okay, so I'm going to use a little floral wire this time to show you how you can do it, because we can't use a stapler into the plastic base, right? We can't do that. So I'm just going to take a little piece of this. I'm going to thread it through the holes so that it catches on both ends of that wire ribbon or metal ribbon, and I'm going to twist it around so that it makes, it's going to be kind of like a bracelet or a band. So we can like slide it back on. Trim off the excess because we don't need that. Make sure you twist it to the outside so it doesn't take up any room on the inside and interfere with you sliding it back on. But you can see that it will slide back on and slide back off. So I'm going to grab these pieces, all of these, and I'm going to take them outside and spray paint those black. Once they're dry, I'll flip over the little wood pieces and I'll add a little bit of tape. Because of the little hanger holes there that I don't want to be as obvious, I'm going to fill those with hot glue. And then use a little bit of black paint once it's dried to just go right over that and cover up those holes. Okay, so this is now black, and we're going to slide it up over here. Now that just immediately gives it a richer look, right? Immediately. So we're going to choose which side we want to be the base. Then I'm going to just use hot glue. This is not going to be heavy. hot glue on the bottom of the one that was wooden, that was spray painted. I'm going to place it down, and this is one layer of paint, y'all, one. Okay, press it down. I'm going to try to get it as centered as possible. And then we will do the top. I'm going to add some hot glue here. And in order to try to get it where it is the best centered possible, I'm going to get above it and look downward at it to make sure it's in the center. And this is actually the bottom that we're looking at now, so you don't have to worry about those, the spattering of the color. I was down to the end of my spray paint in that can. Note to self, get more spray paint. Okay, so now look at the difference. But now I got to go back and paint the bottom. So I did. I took this little brush in that black and painted the bottom. And then I also go back in the areas where, because I didn't glue it because I didn't want residue everywhere, I went back over in any of the spots where it looked like it needed a little extra love, a little deepness, a little depth in that color. And then, of course, we're going to let it dry. This is going to go right on top. So I'm going to take some of that beautiful silver color, and this is like a, I don't have my glasses on, y'all, but I'm sure you could read it on the label. I'm going to take a chippy brush, go into that, tap a lot of it off, and then just kind of dry brush over this silver. This is something that I like to build up. And could I have just left it that silver color? Yeah, I could have, but it didn't have the age look that I was going for. And in order to make this piece look like it goes together, I felt like this technique really did it. This makes it look like it was bought as one piece, just like this. Of course, that's my opinion, but you know, again, I encourage you to do it your own. Make it your own, and if you don't like this, you don't have to do this. You can definitely also use the glass little candle holders. You can use those if you don't have a wooden one, but I get this kind of stuff all the time when I'm out thrifting, so I like to use them. Plus, you know, wood's a little bit easier to work with. It will adhere to other things a little bit better than glass, which has a tendency to kind of pop off. So, you know, just keep that in mind. And by all means, grab some super glue and use that if you need to use it. Now look at this. Isn't that pretty? That makes such a good base. And the best thing is, we don't have to staple this down or even glue it down. It can just sit on the top. And that's going to make it so much easier. So I'm just kind of going in a circular motion around the top of it so that it will blend in with the light. See, we're going to do it too. I sweep a little bit over there. And this is all going to look like it belongs together, which I love. Not that we have to be matchy-matchy all the time, but you know what I mean. It feels good when something comes out the way you intended it to. But you see, you don't want to glue anything down with this because the control box is on the bottom, and yeah, we don't want to do that. So right where our staples are in the front, I am going to take a little spider and I am going to place it down. Just like it's the same type of little spider ring that came out of the same pack from the wreath that we did. So you just cut the little thing off and then you have a spider that you can use. Now because his legs need to bend a little bit, I'm going to add just a little bit of heat, and then I'll take my fingers and push down on it. Just a little heat, and you got to keep it moving because they can burn. You don't want that to happen. But I want it to look like he's climbing down off of here. So I'll just hold it for a minute, which of course I edited out to keep you from being bored to death, so that it looks like he's climbing down, you see? And it just gives it a little something extra that's different. So here's our Cosmos floral. I'm going to use this little thrifted hanging tin thingamabobber. This was a booger to get off. I don't know if they put it on here with tar or what. I'm going to use some purple maple leaves, 2 bunches of Cosmos. These are absolutely stunning from Dollar Tree. And then some of these stickers from Dollar Tree. I'm only going to use 1 sticker. Some more of this silver paint, and some chalkboard paint. I began by trying to get this off with my heat gun. So I heated up the side and then thought that I could just pull it and it would come off. No. Look at that. It's terrible. So we're not going to work with that side because it left a mess when I pulled it off. We're going to flip it over again with the lemons and lemonade. We're going to use the back of it instead. But wait till you see what I do with this. Just wait. So we're going to paint the entire thing with the chalkboard paint. The sides, the handle, the back. Don't worry about the inside because you're not going to see it. Don't waste your paint. I'm making a mess. Look at that. This is why I have paint all over my arms all the time. I'm going to cut my picks apart, leaving these long as I can get them, because I want this arrangement to be kind of tall, not short and squatty. So all of the picks are going to get clipped. I'm going to use a scrap of my foam to hold our florals in. I just use my metal ruler from Dollar Tree. I always use that to cut my foam, almost always. And then I'm going to cut it at a slant because this is sort of a cone, squished cone shape. I know you can make these things out of cans, so you can certainly do your own if you would like. Alright, so now I am going to start dry brushing with this silver. And remember what I have said in previous videos, I like to add a little at a time and then build up in layers, because I have found that I get the best look that way and it doesn't muddy it out. Hey, thanks to all of you who have bought me coffee. It has been wonderful, and thanks to all of you who've done super thanks. I appreciate it so much. It helps me, it helps my channel, it helps my family. Okay, so I'm just gonna continue. You can see that I'm building up here, building up, blending out a little bit. I am really in touch with my inner Bob here. I'm just doing the darn thing. Yes. And I am loving the way this is looking. Loving it. It reminds me of something and I couldn't even tell you what it was, but I really, really, really like this look. You can do the back too, but ideally this would be hanging off of a doorknob or off of the wall somewhere, so you wouldn't necessarily need to do the back. I'm going to just press that in. You don't even have to glue it. I'm adding some of these eucalyptus or box, that's eucalyptus, that's not boxwood. I'm just going to add 3 of those picks in here. It gives a little more height, and I like the color combination with the cosmos. I think it looks really good together, but you know, you can be the judge of that. Use whichever type of colors that you like. I just thought it was kind of cool that we're doing like a celestial kind of mystical theme, and that I found cosmos flowers. That's kismet, right? Yeah. Okay, so we're just going to put those in, bend them around. I don't want them all standing straight up. Then I'm going to start using these purple leaves, and I'm just going to kind of bend those leaves a little bit toward the front. Everything's going to be bent a little bit toward the front, especially the flowers, so that they face forward instead of standing straight up. I want to see the beautiful flowers. I don't want to see just the side. I want to see those pretty little dark insides. Okay, so a little tip. These flowers have 8 petals, but they are in 2 different pieces of 4. Okay, if that makes sense to you. When you get them, most of the time they're not fluffed out and they're stacked on top of each other. So pivot those around so that you get the full presentation of the flower, and it looks so much prettier. You can see there how much better it looks. I'm sorry that I'm out of angle. Remember what I told y'all, I'm kind of intuitive with my crafting. I get a feeling and I just kind of go with it. I just let it, that artistic wave, just take me over. So I don't pay attention to the camera. I'm paying attention to what I'm doing. So I do apologize if that's annoying to y'all, but it's kind of the way I do things. I'm sorry. All right, so twisting around there, you can see now the flower petals are all opened up and it's very pretty. And I'm pushing my greenery to the top. And you can see here they're facing up and out, up and out, up and out, because I can really see what's going on in them. And I can see those beautiful dark middles, and I think it's beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. All right, now you can also do this. You can take another piece of greenery and feed it up on that same wire. And now look at that. Nice. Now you have a way to hold that other piece in there, and we can add some more purple right to the middle. I'm just going, looking from side to side, just like this, round and round, and making sure that I get it as full as I would like for it to be. I didn't want to mash anything up, so I had to kind of see where I could make that fit. Poking it around in there, as my friend Trish says, poking daisies. Poking posies, poking daisies. Okay, so the arrangement part is done, but now let's work on this bottom. I'm going to use a silver marker from Dollar Tree, and this is just my acrylic black pen. See the paint on my finger? I'm telling y'all all the time. All right, so I'm just going to start making some little circles going up on each side of the seam here. We're going to make this look intentional. All the way up. These don't have to be perfect circles. Nobody's judging your circles here. These are meant to look like holes where you are lacing something up, and you really don't notice unless you get really close to it, if they are not all the same size and all in the same position. I got my ruler out, but then I was like, nah, I'm not going to measure. Because see the two on the bottom, the one on the right's a little too close to the middle. It's not a problem. Now let's lace it up. You're just going to go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, like lacing your shoes, all the way up to your last row. So if you don't have something like this and you're doing this on a jar or whatever, you can still do the same design. Just draw your line straight down and then do your dots. Make your own seam there, you know, and then do your own thing. You do this on a pumpkin too to make it look like stitching. That would be really cool. Back and forth, back and forth. Okay, so now all of our lace is in there. I'm going to take that. Yeah, you're going to let it dry first. We don't want to mess up our silver pen by dipping it in black. So once it is completely dry, you're going to go in there with the silver and just add dots, dot, 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 all the way up. We're going to dot, dot, dot all the way up. This is really going to make this stand out, and it almost looks like it has grommets where you are lacing it. Look how that stands out now. Isn't that beautiful? Look at that. It looks like old metal, doesn't it? So pretty. So now I'm going to choose a sticker, and I think I like the crow here. The crow, the raven, the blackbird, the magpie, whatever. You can make a pick, or you can put it somewhere on the bottom. I love that his flowers are also purple, bluish purple, just like the cosmos that we used. I'm going to add some hot glue, even though this is a sticker, because things like to pop off of that metal, right? The next project is going to be the Victorian eek. Now the eek I'm referring to is from Dollar Tree, as well as this little, it's like a little skeleton ornament, I guess. They come in a pack of several. Here's the eek sign. It's been done a million ways and I have never done it, so I'm doing it for the first time here. You're going to use any type of Victorian or vintage inspired paper that you like. You can use scrapbook paper, you can use old greeting cards, you can use whatever you can find. And then Mod Podge, of course, and a little flat brush, which I love. And a piece of paper that happens to match the theme. So I'm going to start by using Mod Podge on my letters. And I'm just trying to get it right on the top right now. I don't need it on the sides because we're only applying that paper right on the front of the sign. So it's not necessary. Continue around till you have a nice even coat like this. And then we're going to flip the paper right on. This paper is really cool. It has a friend of mine, Marcia, gave me a bunch of paper stacks, and this one has, in the middle of each of those pieces, it almost looks like a little skeleton face, so I thought it was perfect for Halloween. Not to mention it's kind of grungy looking, kind of old and Victorian, which is really cool. So I'm just going to make sure I have no bubbles, no gaps. I want everything nice and flat. I'm going to take my utility knife. I broke the other one. Stepped on it and broke it, so now I'm using a heavy-duty one. I have no idea where it came from, and I am going to just start by trimming off the biggest excess pieces. We don't want to do all that little inside work until we get done with all the big stuff. And doing these outside pieces is fairly easy. You're going to go around your entire project and get them off. Then I'm going to use my little emery board here. You can use sandpaper, a sanding block, you can use a finger sander, whatever you have, and just get that down where it is, the paper is right up against your wording. Now I'm going to take these pieces, which by the way, I found a big stack of these at the Goodwill bins. They are absolutely beautiful. And I knew when I saw them I was going to be using these for Halloween, and then I have some I'm going to be using for Christmas, and I cannot wait. So I'm going to make these look really old and distressed. They already look fairly distressed, but by peeling off the edges, you're really going to make them look tattered and old, and I love that. This project just turned out so much better than I anticipated, so I'm so happy to share it with you, and I'm really, really hopeful that you will feel inspired to do something similar to this. And if you do, I would love it if you will email me your pictures. I've gotten several people who have given me their pictures of the projects that I've inspired them to make, and it is very exciting to see them. I'm loving your work. You are a very talented community of young at heart gentlemen and ladies, and I'm very happy to see that you're feeling inspired in this channel, and I love that. So now I'm going to take my antiquing wax and just a little bit of black, and I'm going to go around those edges. The edges, because they're frayed, are really going to allow that to cling to it. So the color is going to cling to it, and look how old that looks. Yes, that's exactly the look that we want for this project. So I'm going to go around to all of the pieces that I've torn off, and I just chose a few that I thought would look good and that maybe looked a little more Halloween themed. And then you can just take your finger and you can just rub this. We want it to look grungy and just like it's been in a trunk forever or in an attic. You know, you get it. Now I'm going to take a little brush. This one came from Dollar Tree in a pack of 3, I think. They work really well. I'm happy with them. Just in case you're looking for some of these brushes. And I'm going to go around on the inside and around the edges of this entire word. This is going to add a little more shadow, a little more dimension. It's going to add more interest, and I just really love it. Very grungy, right? I can't think of a better word. Aged, old, distressed, grungy. Yeah. Now is the fun part. We get to put these pieces down all over the place. These do not have to fit. You don't have to fussy cut them. Don't worry about that right now. That's not our goal right now. It is just to get those pieces on the page. Now you make sure everything's dry before you start Mod Podging anything down. You know, this project's going to take a little time because you've got to let your layers dry in between. But if you're doing several projects, like I do several projects in one sitting, then you can just let the stuff that's painted, set it aside, and work on the next project. If it's got glue that needs to be dried, set it aside, work on the next project. Okay, so now you understand that part. Let's get all these pieces on here where we would like them. I'm just going to go along and add these down wherever they just kind of make sense, where they kind of fit, where I feel like they're going to be seen pretty well, you know. And they don't have to be sitting up straight. They can be sideways. They can be, you know, overlapping one another. Think about if you've ever scrapbooked before. That's kind of the idea. You know, just put it in there and just journal it all down on this sign. I love Halloween, and I love Halloween creations, and I love bringing them to you. And I'm gonna be very sad when I stop doing Halloween projects because it's just so much fun to me. It's so magical, and you know, just got that childlike whimsy. It's exciting. You know, the change of season is exciting, and it just brings me a lot of joy to do this. Like, I have a ton of ideas, and I just don't want to stop doing it. It's craziness, isn't it? But Christmas is fun as well, and I have a lot of ideas to bring you for Christmas. So I hope that if you are here for the Halloween, that you will stay tuned for all of the Christmas. Okay, so now everything's in place. We're going to Mod Podge it, let it dry, and I mean let it dry completely before this step. This paper is going to be very stiff. All of the little pieces that are hanging over are going to be very stiff, which makes them easy to cut. Gonna go around there and trim off all of the excess, which is the backs of the decorative pieces that you put on there, the little pictures that you put on there, and just twist them and bend them and tear them off. You know, it doesn't have to look perfect. Check this out. When it is dry, oh my goodness, look at it. It's leathery and old. I love it. Okay, so now I'm just taking some of that antiquing wax and I'm going to use the brush that had Mod Podge on it. So I have a combination of Mod Podge and antiquing wax, which makes no difference whatsoever. You don't have to do it like this. It's just the brush I had there, so I decided to go with it. You know, some of crafting is an experiment. I'm going to use little blocks to help support this so it will stand up on its own. The part that is going to be glued on, we do not cover with antiquing wax, just like the bottom of the eek is not covered with wax either. I'm going to just use a little bit of, I'm kind of trying to put some where you can really tell what the letters are. So I kind of divided the eek, and now I am I am sort of, you know, outlining some of the places. So see, no distressing on the bottom of that because I want the glue to stick. So I'm using wood glue and some hot glue and putting 2 blocks side by side to make it stand up. Now let's add our beautiful little skeleton man. We're going to make him so happy and not scary. He's smiling anyway. He's not scary, is he? Nothing scary about a skeleton. We all have them inside of us, don't we? And that is not scary. All right, so we've removed his arm and we're going to place it at a different angle. Same thing on this side. He's going to have one arm that is out to his side like he's putting his arm around you, and the other arm we are going to make him wave. So I'm just going to reattach it at the shoulder. Now a lot of people are telling me that you can put these in boiling water and then you can dunk them into ice water, and that's an idea if you want to do it that way. But for me, in crafting for you guys, I want to do this as quickly as possible to give you the ideas so that you can use them for yourself. Now the feet are at the wrong angle for him to be standing up straight. So I'm just going to take them off right above the ankle. Gosh, that sounds terrible, doesn't it? This is not for the faint of heart. I'm going to trim off the ankle and I'm going to reassemble him just like we did his arms. So I'm just going to go ahead and put the feet down on the bottom, see where he's going to be standing so I can get an idea of where his arm's going to be back there. Excuse the fuzziness of the camera right now. It was focusing on the top of the E rather than the feet, but I think you get the idea. You're going to add some glue here. You're also going to add a little bit of super glue so that nothing pops off. I did not do that, and I had to fix that later, but do it now. It's the best way. All right, now on the top of the feet or the ankle area, I'm going to add a little more hot glue and super glue, and then place his legs back down on the feet, and I'm just holding his little arm behind until that glue dries, just like that. Now to keep him from popping off, because there is, you know, we got the antique wax on there, glue might not work, so I'm going to use a shallow staple and attach his arm. And look how cute! Now he's not scary at all. The next project is going to be a trinket box. This little beauty came from Goodwill, the outlet, and I don't know what this was. Does anybody know? Maybe a cigar box, maybe a candy box, maybe just a little jewelry box, but it did have a broken hinge. Nobody picked it up, so of course I grabbed it. That hinge doesn't bother me. I'm going to cover this with a little bit of satin black paint once it is dry, and I did one coat. I left it a little bit crazy looking intentionally because I want it to look aged. So you can see some of the gold is still peeking out. You can see here it's got a lot of raised areas, which is perfect for what we're going to do. I'm going to use some of this gold, and I am going to add some gold back into this box. Now I like this brush. This is a stencil brush. This is not actually what it's intended for, but I'll tell you why I like to use it for this kind of project. It has stiff bristles, and it is precise enough that you can poke it down in those deeper areas without the bristles splaying out and paint going all over the place. So if that makes sense to you, if you've painted before, I think you know what I'm talking about. This makes it so much easier. A soft brush just does not do it for me in this type of a project. This is just more precise, and I just this is just the way to go for me. And hopefully that will be something that will help you too if you have a problem with little paint flecks all over the place or your paint squishing out everywhere. So now I'm going to take a bigger brush and start brushing over here. Again, if you have seen me craft, you know when I am doing this type of distressing, or any type of distressing really, I like to start off very light and then I build up to the point that I really like it. I have found this helpful because I don't have a ton of extra that I'm trying to wipe off or repaint to cover or whatever the matter might be. I don't like all of that. I don't like that kind of drama. I don't like that kind of busy work. So I just like to build up, and hopefully that will be something that will help you. All right, I'm going to go over my little hinge here, and we are going to make our own little, it's going to look like a lock, I guess, a little decorative piece. After a while, no worries. Continuing along, I'm going to go over the little raised, ridged area here. I want to make those kind of goldish. The box would have been okay on its own maybe if you wanted to use it like that, but I really wanted to do the black and gold for Halloween. The next Halloween video I have for you has got some silver and black, so I'm excited about that. I want the inside to be a little bit heavier on that top because that naturally wouldn't be as worn down as the outside, right? So that's why I'm giving this a little more of a coating. And I have this beautiful paper that we're going to use to line the bottom. So I'm going to flip it over, trace it, and then I'm going to go toward the inside of the line so that it will be smaller and it will fit down on the inside. So I'm always hopeful that I have a good fit when I cut these out, and it generally works. I'm going to add Mod Podge in the bottom and grab a foam brush and just get a nice even coat. There is a little lip and some depressions down in there, but it won't matter. Once the Mod Podge dries, once everything's pressed down and it dries, it's going to hold it down. So that's going to be fine. And this is a decorative piece anyway. This is not something I'm going to be using every day. Okay, so the fun part is now you can put whatever you want on the inside. If you want to use this for a prop, you can put anything you want in there. If this was a witch's jewelry box, she would want to have her bones in there and her wand in there, right? And her rings. So this is a cupcake pick from Dollar Tree. It's a little bat. I'm just giving him a brushing of gold, just a dry brush, and then I'm going to add him on here. I cut him off, and look at that. He's cute there. Could also use one of those spider rings. That would be really pretty too. That's the great thing about crafting. You can do it your own way, and I always want you to do it your own way. Now, poison candle. I didn't know what else to name this one. It's poison on the napkin, right? So we're going to use a flameless candle. This one is about 6-7 inches tall. The napkin's from Dollar Tree, some Mod Podge. We're going to use some of the shimmer mist, some gold paint. Okay, we're going to start by taking our napkin, laying it out. We are going to tear the bottom corner because this is the easiest way to separate the layers in my opinion. So I'm just going to tear that part. It's not the part we're going to use, so it doesn't matter that it's torn. And I'm going to trim off what I need. I've already laid the candle down. I know how tall it basically needs to be. And I'm going to trim off the black edges, but I'm going to leave the bottom edge black. So, I love this napkin. They did a really good job on this one. There's a really pretty spider one too that I saw in some people's videos, but I can't find that one at my store. So, this is what I'm going to use. I'm going to trim this off so that I don't have a big overlap, but I do want it to overlap a tad. So I could have had 2 bottles and 1 raven, or 2 ravens and 1 bottle. Whichever way you want to do yours is totally fine. I'm going with the poison here. I'm going to add Mod Podge all over my flameless candle, and this sticks nicely. It does have like a waxy coating, so I guess you could heat it up, whatever, but this is just the quickest way for me to show you how to do it. I'm going to add it down so that it is nice and lined up with that black line on the bottom. That's going to be our border line. And just gently, gently fold and press. You have to be careful. This is 1 ply. This is a Dollar Tree napkin, and it could tear, so you got to be very careful. So now I'm going to go over the edge, and I'm just going to brush away from the seam so that I don't pull it back up. And I'm going to go all the way around the candle with the Mod Podge. I'm going to use a lighter to take the edges off the top. Be very careful, this is not for children. My videos are not for children. If you don't want to do it this way, you can just fussy cut it, no problem. Now is the fun part. I'm going to trace the bottles and the bird with the hot glue. We're going to raise this up so we can give some dimension. I'm going to go around the neck of the bottle and just carefully go around the entire thing. Now this is my Sure Bonder glue gun. It is not a fine tip gun, but it's working fine for this project. It gave me fits for a little while, but I guess it was clogged up. If you leave your gun on too long unattended, the glue will melt in there and then it kind of clogs up a little bit, but you can get it out. Alright, so we're going to continue around. I want to do the head of the skull, the crossbones, the details of the feathers, and then when it's all done it looks like this. And then you're going to have to set it aside and let it dry. Once it's dry, you can start adding like a drippy wax edge. This is new for me too. I've seen lots of people do it, but I've never done it myself, and I thought it was perfect for this grungy poison candle. I think this is going to look great with the eek sign. So I'm going to continue around and just make a line of glue and let it drip and run down. If your glue is drying too quickly, maybe you don't have a very steady hand, you can use your hair dryer, or you can use a heat gun like I have here and just turn the candle so nothing warps, but let that glue kind of run down a little bit. And I did 3 layers of this on the top, and I just kept adding to it and letting it drip down so it looked like a very old candle that's been used a lot. It's in an old scary haunted house, or beautiful, you know, it's your opinion, whichever way. It might not be scary to you. And we want it to look like it's been there forever. We want it to look like it's been a well-used candle. We want it to look like it's been sitting in the dust and the grossness, and that's where this little shimmer spray comes in handy. Check this out. Look at the automatic age you get with that. Perfecto! I did not know what this stuff was when I picked it up at Goodwill. I had no idea what it was, but somebody told me it was for crafting, so I grabbed it and then started playing around with it and realized what a perfect way to age something. So yeah, I mean, if you've ever used this stuff before, you can put in the comments where it came from, what you use it for, because I'm loving it, and I will definitely be putting this back to use next year for Halloween as well. Alright, so I'm going to use some of that black and the antiquing wax and just go all over this. I really want to get in the spaces where the wax is and where the hot glue is. Well, you know what I mean. So that it looks really like dust has been in the wax and it's been just sitting up. Oh yeah. Yes, this thing looks very old. Would you agree? Do you think it does? I think that just really made so much of a difference. The next project is our candelabra. Forgive me for missing footage, but this had a cork on it. I took the cork off. Now I'm going to use a long bead and a candle holder. A single little candle holder. I'm going to take this bead and I'm going to fill it up with glue. Well, partly with glue on both sides. Then I am going to place it over the stem where the cork was. Careful, careful, because glue will come out. But look, I'm going to use that glue again, recycling my glue so that I can put the other bead down in the candlestick. All right. Once it is dried, I'm going to take some black paint and go over the bead. So this will now look like part of the candlestick or the candelabra. Same thing on the bottom. We don't want to see that. I'm going to take a little piece of stem, add some glue to it, and then fit that bead right over the top. And it's small enough that it fits right beside the screw with no problem. You do have to hold it there until it dries so that the sides of the candle will be balanced and you don't have one higher than the other like it's a scale instead. I'm going to dry brush some gold all over it just because that is the theme in this video. We have all kinds of gold, and I'm going to continue around and just go over it lightly. Again, building up a little more here and there. Wherever you want to use more accent, you can, like around the cups where the candles are held, you could do that. You could color the whole thing gold if you wanted, but I love the way this looks. These are the emergency 2-pack of candles from Dollar Tree. We're going to give them a makeover. I'm going to use just a little bit of masking tape, and I am going to go just put this around the light bulb part of both of these candles to protect them, because I'm going to spray paint them with some of that same black satin paint. Once they're dry completely, I'm going to peel off the paint, and the little candle part is still nice and clean. Now the thing with these particular candles, of course they do take AAA batteries and they don't come with them, so be sure you buy some. They have a white light, which is not my favorite, but I'll show you how to fix that. I'm going to use some of these little foam tape pieces. You can get something similar at Dollar Tree. Whoops. And I'm just going to use these to stick these down in the little candle cups. And they'll stay there nicely. I said nicely again. My mother informed me that I say nicely a lot, so if that bugs anybody, I do apologize. Okay, so you can see there's white light there. If you don't care for the white light, you can paint the little light. So I'm using some sunflower paint in yellow, and I'm just going to go over this, and you can see as I'm painting it, it changes the color to a yellowish color. You can put as many coats on here as you want to, but I don't mind it being streaky because a candle light is streaky anyway, and you can't tell when it's lit. But you can see the difference now on the light. Let them dry. We're going to add a little spider decorative piece right on there just to really give it a little something extra. Okay, now it's time for the charming candle. This actually, at the last minute, I changed my mind and decided not to use lace because I found my scarf before I found the lace. This is a little bit of trim. Here's this beautiful scarf that I thrifted. And here is a little cat medallion that I used on another project that I pulled it off. I'm going to lay this beautiful jar down, and I'm going to cut off. I wanted to make sure that I saved that fringe off of there, so I'm cutting above where it has a seam on it so I can put it aside and keep it for something else. It's pretty. Look at that. This kind of looks like a spider web to me. I don't know, it just looked Halloween-y. And it was calling to me more than the black lace that I had, so I decided to go with it. Going with my gut here, y'all. Hope you like it. I'm going to use some hot glue and protect my fingers and then press this down into there, trying to make sure that my lines are pretty neat and I haven't distorted my pattern in any way. Folding it over, trimming a little bit more, and again I'm trying to trim underneath where the patterns go together so that it doesn't fray. A little more hot glue, and we're going to lay down a nice seam here. Then you can trim more if you need to at this point. Alright, so I'm just going to stuff that in there while I can flip it over and glue off the bottom. I'm adding this down and going around. Then I'm going to trim off what I don't need that's kind of hanging from the top. I trim it twice because you know, I was having a creative block trying to figure out exactly what I wanted to do with the top of the jar. But I did finally cut it down a little bit more and decided to just tuck it over on the inside. It would have a pretty decent finished edge if I did it that way with nothing sticking up, so that's what I decided to do. I just went along the inside with a little hot glue and just tucking and kind of rolling my fingers down and pushing it into and away from the outside of the jar. And so this is how it looks, almost like a vase. So I decided that I want to use my little trim, my little lace trim here, and go right around where the neck of the jar is. Very easy to do. This is such an easy project. If you have your supplies, you won't have to even pay anything for this. Grab your scraps. You know, I have a bag that I keep next to me that is full of ribbon scraps and little stems and greenery pieces. Grab what you have and work with that. So I'm just going to wrap this around. I don't want to do it too tightly. And then once I get back to the beginning, I'm going to take another layer and go right underneath it. And you could do this the opposite way, but it's easy to do this way. And it was a second thought anyhow. Okay, so this is a little piece that came off of a headband. I'm going to put it down first, and then I'm going to put the cat right on top of it. And I called it a cat medallion, but it's actually a sticker, like a puffy sticker. But I've used it before and I love it. It's so pretty with the wording in the background. So I'm going to put that down on there, and this is how the little jar is going to look. Then I'm going to take my candle and put it on the inside, and of course it's flameless. This is how it looks when the lights are dimmed. Do you like this one? I like it. So here's an option if you like the top to be finished off. You can take some ribbon in a coordinating color and cut it off. Then you can just use it to wrap around the top. It's going to wrap around the outside and fold it over toward the inside, and you just use a little bit of glue to hold it in place. So to give you an idea of what that would look like, you could do it like this. You could also use like a black ribbon or something like that. Finish it however you like. If you've enjoyed this video so far, I would love it if you would subscribe to my channel. You can just keep going along